Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera Passions. I am your regular host, LeTara, back with one of my favorite guests. Y'all know he's probably one of my favorites because you see him all the time. Dr. Eric Vera is in the house.
Hello, hello. It is always so good to be back. I had fun listening over the break, and new year, same passions, right?
New Year, same fucking passions. Honestly, nothing has changed.
No,
No,
no.
that's not true. That's not true, actually. I will say that I am starting to have some weird feelings about Theresa that I don't like.
Yeah,
And I think I said something about it last week where I was just like, oh my God, this girl is driving me crazy.
yeah,
And it's crazy because I used to stand Theresa, but I also was like 12. So
yeah.
it's like, now I guess I'm seeing it through my grown-up adult eyes, and I was fighting it for a long time. But
Yeah. No,
last week and this week, it's just like, girl, come to your
Teresa's gonna cause us some problems. Yeah,
get a grip. Good
yeah,
God, girl. But yes, so happy to see you back here,
yeah.
2024, Eric. Thank you for being here. We're
Of
gonna
course,
start with this week we watched episodes 586 through 590, correct? That's what
that's
I
correct.
watched anyway. And before we get into everything, I want to say quick shout out to all of the Patreons over. Lord Jesus. Quick shout out to all the patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Marcus, Breland, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean, S, Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, Lisa, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, and Justin. Thank you all so much. We love you, patrons. Oh, yes, we do. We love you, patrons, and we'll be true. I love you. Thank you all for being patrons. Remember, if anybody who has not become a patron yet would like to, go on over to patreon.com/passionspodcast and sign up for whatever tier you find most agreeable. There's also a free tier. All right. So with that, thank you, patrons. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to move on because, we got a action-packed episode this week. I got a lot to say about Grace. I got a lot to say about Theresa. I have a lot to say about Pilar. And I actually, even though we had very little in magic this week, I have a ton to say about Kay.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of somebody going on a certain trajectory, Kay is right there with Theresa.
So let's start with magic this week. We have just literally I cut the notes in half because I only have this much. So I cut the top of the page off.
Yeah. Well, speaking of magic, I thought I'd bring a little magic into our new year. Does that sound fun?
Yes, actually, I almost completely forgot that we were going to do this.
Not
Eric
at
has a
all.
special
No
treat for
worries.
us.
Y'all, so I looked into my crystal bowl, I guess, or my water bowl. Over the break, I just kind of kept watching Passions. I usually like to watch with the podcast, but I was just it kind of just starts to rev up at some point. And so I kind of dipped into the future. And with that said, I thought we'd have a little tarot reading, tarot cards. I am not a very good reader of these. I used to play or read them. I shouldn't say play, but I used to read them when I was a kid. And so I'm very, very rusty. But these ones are actually Golden Girl tarot cards for those of you who
Nice.
can't see. So I thought we'd have a little reading. This is all bullshit, by the way, but we're going to have fun. Not that tarot reading is bullshit. I am a bullshitter, and I'm not going to do very well. Also know that I did go to the store yesterday to try and find some Cleckley bracelets so that I could do the official sounds. I give you some Passions ASMR, but that was not an option yesterday. So, what is the first thing that we can predict for Passions coming up? You guessed it. If you are not that so raven, it is pain and suffering will come to all the citizens of Harmony. That is a straight up first thing that you can definitely know is coming our way. We got the devil card as played by Blanche Devereaux, but in Passions, this is oddly going to be a new side of Teresita that we haven't seen before, and also someone you might not guess, Mrs. Charity Standish in a
Ooh.
way. So prepare for that. Oh, the Empress, which indicates a new man is coming into Grace's life again. And for those of you who can't see LeTara, she already knows what is coming her way too. I don't know if she's the Tabitha to my Hecuba or vice versa, but we are seeing much pain and suffering in her eyes as well. The death card, which not always indicates death, but in this case it does, as death comes for one of Harmody's citizens, and a whodunit will ensue afterwards.
Dun dun
And then
dun.
finally, on the softer side, the Four of Wands. Someone's Christmas wish will come true.
You've already made it to Christmas?
Yeah, I know. That's how fast I was. Because I was watching these episodes going, we're in Halloween? I was like, how much did I watch?
Yeah, we're in Halloween. Well, I'm very excited for all that is to come in Harmony.
But I
In
mean,
the
honestly, you
future.
really could just throw a dart at the wall and know that pain and suffering is coming because we say it every episode.
I knew immediately that was like gonna be the first thing that you pulled out was pain
Top
and suffering.
prediction.
I love that. I love that. So that's a great segue into magic. So let's talk about it. So Miguel and Charity are walking around this park. I think it's Lighthouse Park, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying to her, I can't wait to get married or get engaged on your 18th birthday, which is coming up,
Yeah.
apparently. These kids are all 18 now, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, out of the clear blue sky, but fine.
Yeah.
So her 18th birthday is coming up, and he's saying, we're definitely going to get engaged. I'm definitely going to propose to you. It's like, way to ruin the surprise.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, Tabitha and Timmy are walking through the park because she needs to go pick up some things from the store for their like Halloween celebrations, right?
Yeah.
And she sees Charity and Miguel, so she decides to, of course, spy on them and like listen in on what they're talking about. And then, of course, like fill us in on the things that we already know. But if you had missed the episodes before, she's like, Kay has turned evil because she thinks she feels like she's a bastard now, and like she's gonna be the one to push these two over the edge. So they do the same recap they always do. But Kay and Simone also come to the park,
Mm-hmm.
and they do this after something happens. They do this after something happens at Kay. Well, not Kay's house. Whose house is that? Tabitha's house.
Yeah.
At Tabitha's house between David and Grace, which we will get to. But Kay has been upset. She has this. She understands and believes now that there's no reason to be good. Good gets you nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And Simone has been saying to her, you're just using this as an excuse to be bad. Like, you just want to be bad. Yeah.
Yes. I wrote that down. She quoted the great Willa Ford and said, I want to be bad. You make that look so good. Do you remember that damn song?
I remember that song, but how the hell do you know who sang it?
Because the song was so bad that it was so good. And I remember hearing it back in the day with all of that. It was so funny.
You know what song is so bad but so good? And I saw there's these two people on TikTok who do like if we were such and such as background singers, and they do like
Yeah.
these like
Oh, those are
have you
great.
seen that? They did the Paris Hilton, even though the stars are crazy,
Oh,
even
yeah.
though the gods are blind. I cracked up because back in the day, I remember they were like, Paris Hilton is coming out with a new song. I was like, ugh, that's lame. And I LimeWired it. Like, I was like, let's see what this is about. And I LimeWired it. Ironically, it was completely ironic for me.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this is, I was trying to be shitty about it.
Yeah.
And I ended up loving that song. I remember loving that song. I used to play the fuck out of that shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not a great song, but
No,
I
this
feel the
is
same
like,
way.
yeah, I
I feel the
want to
same
be
way about her. I
bad.
want to be bad. I want to be
Kay
bad.
said you make that look so good.
I have to make a TikTok with that sound with Kay. I have to.
Oh yes. Oh
Or if anybody wants to make it for me, please. Like if anybody wants to just like do a super cut of Kay and
yeah,
like just you know how people do those cuts and have the
yeah,
songs in the background. Please make an original music video of I wanna be bad with Kay. Yes, please do that for me. All right. So
yeah,
anyway, Kay's saying she's gonna be bad because there's no reason to be good. Because
yeah.
goody goodies only get bad things. Only bad things happen to good people. Look at, and she cites, Sheridan and Louise. Look, they've been good and they've never hurt anybody. And Sheridan's dead.
Yeah, she's like even poor Mrs. Lopez Fitzgerald. Like she even brings up Pilar and is like, her husband's missing and all of this stuff. Like nobody's happy in there. And I love this because also I was gonna say that Tabitha and Timmy are watching Miguel and Charity make out, and Tabitha's like, "Ew, there she is being kissy kissy with Miguel," and Timmy's like, "Ew." So that was cute and stuff. So there's a lot going on, and Tabitha's like, "You know what? I gotta help Kay," which I love this. I love this storyline of like Tabitha egging her on and like manipulating her and helping her get to the evil side.
100%. So Tabitha sees Kay, and of course she knows what's going on. So she goes over to literally, she says, well, not literally, but it's figuratively,
Yeah,
stoke the flames, right? She's going to fan
yeah.
the flames of Kay's evil and make it burst forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she goes over to Kay and Simone, and she says, "Oh, I couldn't help but overhear what you girls were talking about, and it is true that pain and suffering has broken up so many happy couples here in Harmony, but there is at least one happy couple here in Harmony." And they said, I think they said this.
Oh, oh, I wrote it down. Yes, it
Okay,
is
say
so
it.
good because they're kind of thinking it over, and Simone goes, "Ben and George, who own the antique store," and it's just a drive-by joke, and even Kay's like, "Huh, yeah, yeah," and
It was so cute, actually. I actually really loved it because they were all like, "Yeah, them," and
yeah,
and then Tabitha's like, "Yes, sure, them, but also
yeah.
Tabitha and Miguel, and here they are
It
making
is
out."
so funny. I like to think that it's canon that Tabitha has to break up all the couples in Harmony, but not the gay ones. She's like, they have enough going on. Like let Ben and George run their antique store. They're good.
They listen. They've got enough things trying to break them up already, right?
Tabitha doesn't need to focus on them.
Even she's like, you know what? That's not my business.
Tabitha said, yeah. Tabitha said gay rights in 2001,
Gay
2002.
rights now, gay rights forever.
Yeah.
But none of you straights, none,
I'm
none of
coming
you
for you
straights.
straights. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, yeah. Okay.
Cute
Tabitha.
runoff joke. Yeah.
Okay. So, she says, yes, Charity and Miguel are the one happy couple in town. There, and so she directs Kay's attention over to Charity and Miguel.
Yeah.
Kay is disgusted at the sight of Charity and
Oh,
Miguel
yeah.
kissing. Simone tries to talk her out of her little plan, as she always does. She's like, "It's wrong to try and seduce Miguel and have his baby." Girl, either get on board or go home at this
Yeah.
point. I'm sorry.
But also again, I love Simone, but like she's friends with Charity also. Like when do you I mean I know you have loyalty to your best friend, but like when do you say, you know what, I gotta tell Charity, your cousin's coming for your man. Like just it's annoying.
Simone has
Yeah.
to either get on board or
Yeah.
get the hell on.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's how I feel about Whitney too. And Whitney, guess what Whitney did? She got on board.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like I'm just gonna go with the shit. Not my life.
Yeah. I think everyone needs a Whitney in their life and she's really good at it.
Yeah. So Kay won't hear any of it, obviously. Tabitha fans the flames more. Kay asks Tabitha to stock up on some tissues at the store. We're really going to need them. I guess that's like alluding to the fact that Charity's going to be crying a lot because she's going
Yeah.
to steal Miguel, I guess.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
don't know.
that's, yeah. And the case again reiterates that being good hasn't gotten her anything. She specifically says the best she's gotten by being good was a cold sore from Reese, who caught her off guard when they kissed, which I thought was funny. And then Tabitha kind of like walks away from him a little bit and talks to Tim and is like, "Okay, is not going to rest on she until she gets preggers," which I never heard the word preggers.
You
Like,
haven't?
well, I heard it. I've heard it now, but I never thought that it was that long ago that we were using the word preggers, particularly Haley Mills, or I'm sorry, Juliet Mills.
Juliet Mills. It's funny you bring that up because, and I wasn't going to say anything about this, but when she said preggers, it unlocked a memory for me where I was at Walmart, like visiting home. This is years ago. I think I might have been in college and like undergrad. So like 2009, 2008, 2009. And I saw one of like my classmates from high school, and she had had a baby when we were in high school.
Yeah,
And I think she had another baby. Now, mind you, again, at this point, I'm like, we're 20 years old,
yeah,
21. So she comes up to me and I'm talking to her and I look down and I realize she's pregnant.
yeah,
And I didn't want to say anything about it. So I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything, but I was so shocked, right?
yeah,
And she says something like, yeah, I can't do blah, blah, blah. Those kinds of things, starts rubbing her belly, obviously, and rubs her
yeah,
belly. And I looked down, I was like, oh, you're preggers? I said it just like that. And my best friend at the time was standing there with me and she started crying, laughing because we were both so shocked. And I was just like, I gotta get the
yeah,
fuck out of here. I felt so bad. I felt so bad. I
yeah.
felt so bad
Aw.
because it's like, at the time I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm 20 years old. I can't imagine having 3 children.
Yeah,
2 kids already and getting pregnant and being pregnant again. Oh my God. It
yeah.
wasn't anything like she's horrible for getting pregnant. It was like,
No, it's
how
just
is she possibly doing
it's
this?
a different, yeah, it's a very different situation than yours. So of course, yeah, especially that age, I'd be like, my God, that's a
And then
lot.
it was funny because I said something to my grandma. I went home and said something to my grandma about it. And she was like, yeah, by the time I was 21, I had 4 kids. And I was like, ugh, yeah, I
Can you
forgot about that.
imagine? Wow, wow. It's a
Yikes.
very different world than,
I'm
yeah,
35 and I would still, if I got pregnant right now, I feel like I was a teen mom. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
she's trying to get preggers.
yeah.
Um,
And Tabitha's going to stop at nothing to help, which includes her coming up with an idea that she needs to get into Hecuba's lair in order to get some ingredients to help Kay on her mission to destroy Charity and Miguel's relationship.
yes, yes. We also should note because I want to move on with where Tabitha goes.
Yeah,
We also should note that Miguel and Charity have a little conversation, which Kay and Simone are listening
yeah.
on. Like they go over and they eavesdrop. And Miguel says, in some cultures, once you're engaged, it's okay to make love. Do you think we should make love once we're engaged? And Charity is like, I mean, I know that in some cultures that's true, but I'm not sure we should. How about this? What if we just get engaged and decide afterwards? I was like, yeah, I mean, what a weird. Miguel's a weirdo.
Oh, it really upset me, and I was like, "Listen here, you little Catholic boy, your mom ain't gonna put up with this shit." I also hate this double standard that we have for the men of the Lopez Fitzgerald family versus Teresa's virginal protection that we're supposed to take care of. Like,
Yeah.
Pilar needs to go up to Miguel and Charity and tell them to leave a little room for the Holy Ghost. That
Mm.
is my if I were Tabitha and I was sitting there going be evil, I'd be going up to Pilar every day and be like, I feel like those two are going to fornicate, Pilar. You need to go check on that. Like, that's the easiest way to get them separated.
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. But
But
also,
nobody gave me any special powers.
also the fact that he was like, in some cultures, yeah, in some cultures, but not
Not
yours.
yours. Yes.
Why are you saying that? In some
Yeah.
cultures, okay, well, in some cultures, it's okay to do a lot of things. Does that mean
Yeah.
that you should do them?
Yeah.
No. What are you
It
talking
was.
about?
It's funny because it did sound kind of skeezy. I was like, "This is come on, man."
And the way he had his hair this week made
Yeah.
him look even more sketchy. Like he
Which,
just they had him like greased back, and it's like he looked cute. Don't get me wrong, but it was definitely like a fuckboy type
yeah.
hairstyle. Like it,
Which I was gonna say,
but
which by the way, it just got out of just kind of the blue. I don't know if Jesse Metcalf made his way into your TikTok or Twitter, but he showed up on mine, and people were just. I think he like had like a reunion with Eva Longoria or something, or like they were just talking about with each other, and people were posting pictures, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's Miguel from Passions, Miguel from Passions," and people were remembering him as Miguel or John Tucker. A lot of people remember him from John Tucker Must Die,
yeah.
but he looks exactly the same. He looks exactly the same. It's
I remember he
crazy.
was on Dancing with the Stars, and
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
he looks good,
yeah,
but he's not that old or anything. He's
yeah. That's
probably
true. Yeah,
he's probably just like 5 years older than me. He's
yeah,
probably like
yeah,
40. What's your
yeah,
guess? How old do you think he is? I think he's 42.
yeah. I would think the same
I'm gonna look it up.
because he had to have been older than us, and then back then. So, but yeah,
45. He's 45. He's
45.
10
Well,
years
he
older.
looks fantastic.
Yeah,
I
he
hope
looks great.
I hope he gets a renaissance. I'm always rooting for Passions alumni, and I
Well,
hope that they.
he's in like Hallmark movies and stuff. I've seen him
Yes,
in
I
Hallmark
noticed that.
movies.
Speaking
Yeah.
of, at the Golden Globes, somebody mistook Fox, who we don't know yet, but we all know from This Is Us,
Justin
Justin
Hartley.
Hartley. They called him they identified an actor that was not him, and it was all over the internet too. People and the hashtag pretty much was like, "See, sometimes white people get mistaken for other white people."
I did not
So look,
see that.
yeah, I forget what actor it was, but it was very funny, and the actor gave a shout out to Justin Hartley. He was like, I guess we do look like each other."
There is a group of women who, to me, look exactly the same. I have you ever seen have you ever seen Sugar and Spice about the
Mhm.
teenage pregnant?
Oh yeah, leave it
Yeah,
alone. It's a fungus.
I used to love that movie, but that girl, the blonde girl who was the pregnant
Yeah.
girl, I can't. Is she Mina
So Mira
Sorvino?
Sorvino is the redhead in that movie.
Okay, well,
The
that blonde, to me, she looks like four other different women, and one night I was like, oh, that's the lady from Sugar and Spice. I was watching something, and
yeah,
then I looked her up and I was like, oh wait, that's not her at all. And then I looked up the woman in Sugar and Spice and I was like, wait a minute, wasn't she in this thing? And then I
yeah,
looked that lady up and I was like, wait a minute, there's 4 or 5 different women
yes.
who look exactly the same. Those
Marley
women,
Marley Shelton is who you're thinking about, right? And
yeah.
she was in that she was in the new Scream movies, Scream 4 and the Scream 5 after that. And I think I know who you're thinking about too. Um, are you Hold on, let me see if I'm right.
Well,
Uh,
okay, yeah.
I know this is a tangent, but
It's okay. I can. That's what the editing software is for. Also, I need to
yes,
go get some
good.
tissue. Give me a second. Let me get
Are
some
you thinking
tissue.
about Heather Graham?
Yes, I'm thinking about
See,
Heather Graham. Heather Graham, but also the girl who plays in some angles she looks like them too. Who plays in Once Upon a Time? Who plays Emma in Once
okay,
Upon a Time? Her too. They all
yeah,
look alike to me. I cannot distinguish them.
yeah,
And there's one other one, but and there was a movie I was watching. It was the movie was a Christmas movie. It had Brandy in it. It was like Best Christmas Ever. What's that
yeah.
lady's name?
Jennifer Morrison is from Once Upon a Time.
Best Christmas
Emma
Ever.
Swan. Yeah,
Heather Graham is the one who's in Best Christmas Ever. So yeah,
yeah,
they all look so much alike to me. And it's just them,
yeah,
I don't know. But anyway, I
yeah.
digress. Yes, that was quite the tangent, but I loved it. Thank you for going
Good.
on such
Yeah.
a ride with
Well,
that.
I like when passions people come up in the news or like they come up on my feed, so that's always exciting to see them out there still doing stuff. I'm always rooting for them.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so back to the show. um, so Timmy and Tabitha are scheming to get back into Hecuba's lair. She's like, "How can we get back in there?" Timmy doesn't want to go. He's like, "Why don't we go back to the Crane Mansion? Like, if Julian catches me this time, there's no way he's gonna let me go, right?
Yeah.
And so she's like, I know what we can do. We have to ask the forces.
Yes.
We have to ask the forces. So they're walking on the wharf, and she just like drops to her knees and implores the forces. And she says to them, what she say? Make me invisible, as small as bait. Just get me onto the Crane estate. And that's when Rebecca trips over her. This is not even that important, but
Yeah.
Rebecca trips over her, and Rebecca's carrying a box of invitations for a wedding, which we will talk about.
Yeah.
And the wedding is tomorrow. And
Yes.
Tabitha swipes one of the invitations, and that's going to be her
Yes.
ticket onto the Crane estate tomorrow. So the forces were listening. She says that she's like, Timmy, are you crazy? Because Timmy was like, see, it didn't work. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, it didn't. And she pulls out that invitation.
Yeah, Timmy says all it did was get Tabitha run over by a crazy rich lady. Julian sees Timmy animated again and tries to get Rebecca to look, but it doesn't happen. And that's the cute little bit. But, anytime Passions characters who are not really supposed to be in the same world with each other, like a Rebecca and a Tabitha, I love things like that. And when she slammed into her, she slammed into her.
Yeah.
But she gets a wedding, and she'll be able to use that invitation to get onto the Crane estate.
Yeah. So, also at one point, it should be noted, because this was one of my favorite moments in the week, Timmy and Tabitha are talking to each other outside of the book cafe.
Yeah.
And Father Lonigan comes walking down the sidewalk, and he's like, I can sense you, evil. I know you are there, but I don't have time for you today.
Yeah. And I'm like, yes, you do have time. You're only going. Yeah.
He says, but one day we will do battle.
Yeah.
Battle?
Yeah, come on, bro. Yeah. And then nothing manifests from that. Tabitha didn't even comment about it. She's just like, okay.
She's like, okay, whatever.
I got a party to go to.
Yeah, I just loved that, though. That just randomly he's walking down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
He's like, I sense you, evil.
Yeah.
And someday we will do battle. But I'm busy today.
Yeah.
But today
he's
not that day.
Yeah, he's not busy. He's gonna go over to Pilar's house. Like,
Yeah, he's gonna
battle
go to
her now.
He's gonna go to Pilar's house, where he's gonna just tell Theresa that he can't marry her, which he already told her
Yes.
yesterday. Why are you here?
Yeah. His
Why are you
priorities
here?
are different.
Okay, so that's pretty much it for magic. You have anything to add?
No, it was very small and sweet this week. So there'll be a lot more magic coming down the pike. That's for sure.
And I'm very excited to see it. So let's talk about these troubled marriages. Specifically, we're going to talk about David and Grace and Sam's whole thing, because the Ivy and Julian and all of that's mixed up with Theresa now. So we'll do that separately. So we pick up, and David has kissed Grace. It's kissing Grace in the kitchen, and Grace is like into it.
Yeah, so my understanding is he's like, I have a way that can help you, like, unblock some memories for you, or bring some memories back. And she's like, what is it? And he goes in for a kiss. But
yeah,
it's really stupid.
It's very
stupid. It makes me very angry.
It upset me, honestly, because later on, and we will get to it and go a little bit more into detail, but later on, Grace says multiple times, I gave him permission to kiss me. I let him kiss me. I gave him permission to kiss me. No, you did not.
Yeah.
I went back to the episode before to make sure that I wasn't losing my fucking mind.
This is why you are our guru of passions, because I was already going to ask you, like, I might have missed a little bit, and I was already like, did she say that? Because I never heard her say, yes, you can kiss me. She just said, oh, I gave him permission, but I didn't hear it or see it.
What happened was, he says to her, I'll leave you alone if you can, there's one way you can prove to me that you don't care for me, yada, 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 and I'll leave. And she says, well, what is it? And basically that will help me move on with my life. She says, what is it? And he steps in and he kisses her. That's it. So no, he did not give her permission, but she gave him, I think what they're saying is that physically she did give him permission once he was kissing, and she gave into it and was like, she was super into it. She dropped her
Yeah.
towel. She was super into it. Which upset me because, girl, Sam, oh my God,
I know.
you got a man like Sam, and you let this random man out of fucking nowhere tear your marriage apart, your family apart
Yeah.
with a man like Sam. Like,
I
I
know.
could, frankly, I could see if it was like Hank. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if she was married to Hank, right?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's something. Maybe the grass is greener on the other
Yeah.
side. But you got Sam, and
Yeah.
he's telling you you're the only woman I want, the only woman I love. Y'all already have kids together. He doesn't want Ivy. He's not fucking with that bitch anymore. I mean, I will say, she does say some things once she and Sam have a conversation
Yes.
that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to give Grace a little bit of grace on this.
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
let's talk a little bit more about it. So
Yeah.
David and Grace are kissing in the kitchen. Simone and Kay are outside, and Kay is like wallowing in self-pity. I'm a bastard. Being good gets you nowhere. Look at me. I'm a bastard.
Yeah.
And then Simone's like, well, Ethan's illegitimate. Oh my God.
I know. I know. And she says Chad's illegitimate too, and I don't love him any less.
Yeah. It's like, Simone, who wrote this?
I
But yes,
know.
but Kay does not hear it. She's like, it doesn't pay to be good. Look at all of the people who have played by the rules and what has it gotten them. And she cites Pilar's great misfortunes, the loss of her husband, the loss of her son, the Sheridan's death. She's like, not only is Pilar now getting all kinds of like retribution for things that she didn't do, now her
Yeah.
kids are suffering too.
Yeah.
Like, and so she's making some points. I mean, she's spitting. I can't take that from her. She's spitting straight fire. She's not entirely wrong. So then this is when she starts citing. She says, and look at my brother. Oh my God, look at my dad, Sam. He's never done anything wrong to anyone, and now this David guy comes in to tear his family apart and steal his wife. My dad's like the greatest guy I've ever known.
Mm-hmm.
And Simone then tells her, "Kay, you're just looking for an excuse to be bad."
Yeah.
Which I think is partially true.
Yeah.
I think it's partially true, but I also feel like I understand where Kay is coming from. And Kay's like, no, this is really who I am, and this is like my true new core belief. It is not an excuse. My experiences and what I've seen around me has created this new core belief for me. And my new core belief is there's nothing wrong with being bad because at least you get what you want in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't be.
And you're right. I mean, if she looks back on like her experiences with Hecuba, like if she would have followed through further or more, because her conscience was weighing on her, even though she didn't have a soul, she still was like begrudgingly like doing some things. Versus had she gone full in, then maybe Charity be burning in the fires of hell right now, and she'd have Miguel.
Has she been like constantly, really, truly been consequences? Consequences be damned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she might be with Miguel right now. Actually, honestly, if she had been like consequences be damned early on, Charity would be dead. Charity would be truly dead.
Yeah. And she also, like, if she only knew, like, Tabitha's out there helping her too, trying to kill Charity, like, she would have definitely gotten rid of her a long time ago. So I guess, like, in her mindset, you know what? I kept trying to, like, there was this core in me that made me want to be good because of my mom and, like, my religion and stuff. But if I just go full throttle, then maybe I will have Miguel and not a cold sores from Maurice.
Listen, she's saying, I got to stop half-assing this shit.
Yeah.
I got to stop half-assing. I got to go
full on
ass.
evil.
I got to go whole ass. So, Simone says, well, what about your mom? Your mom is a good person, and she would never let some guy come between her family. Yeah. She says, you should try to be more like her. And they open the door to the kitchen, and there is Grace being an adulteress. No, I'm not gonna. That's not true. That's not true. Because technically, allegedly she's married to this man, so it's not adultery. But
Yeah.
Making out with this man after she's been explicit in her choice and said, I'm choosing Sam. I don't want anything to do with David. My life is with Sam. I mean, if this had happened before last week, I would have had a little bit of problem with it, but I wouldn't have nearly as big of a problem with it as I had this week, because last week she had a full-blown conversation with Sam wherein she said, I choose you, Pikachu.
Yeah.
You are mine. I'm with you, David. David who? I'm getting a divorce. I'm getting an annulment. And now you're kissing him?
Yeah. No, and then also, like, I don't know, what happens is we're going to get a back and forth between Kay and Grace that really upset me, because I'm like, she's like really trying to be like, you need to be respectful to this man. And it's like, no, she doesn't. You're kissing another man that's not her father.
Yeah.
She had the exact correct reaction to this. Kay blows up. She attacks. She goes after David first because she really believes that David is coming on to her, that there's no way this could happen. And Grace is like, I let him kiss me. As soon as she says that, like, I would have taken her away privately. I would have had her, like, there were other ways to handle this. Grace was really bad in this, and she's going to continue to say some shit that she probably should not have said.
I don't get it. Yeah, Kay goes off. She's like, who the hell do you think you are, to David? How dare you take advantage of my mom, and you're forcing yourself on her. Grace says it's not what you think. It's all right. Kay, I let him kiss me.
Yeah.
And then Kay says to her, well, how could you do this to Daddy? He loves you. He trusts you.
Yeah.
And then she calls David a bastard and is like, I know I am. What about you? He calls him a bastard. It's like, oh, it's funny coming from you, meat kettle. Am I right?
Yeah.
So anyway, she says he's destroying our family, and Grace says this is not David's fault, and she's just defending David. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Kay is yelling at her. It's like, why are you defending him, Mom? And that's when Sam comes running in, saying, what the hell? What's all this yelling? What the hell's going on here? He grabs Kay and holds her because she's really upset, as she should be. Kay is 100% justified.
Yeah.
Kay is 100% justified in this moment. Her emotions, the way she's feeling about it. Grace never should have let that happen.
Yeah.
Grace never should have let that happen. Her daughter should not have had to see that.
Yeah.
So the fact that he kissed her and she didn't immediately push away when they're in the middle of the kitchen at a time of the day when you know your kids are going to be coming home.
Yeah. And again, for our audience people, this wasn't a kiss. To me, it was a full-on makeout session.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a long, passionate session.
Yeah, and they were like rubbing each other.
Yes, it was an embrace. It was a lot. Like,
yeah.
I was kept waiting for him to be like, Grace, don't you remember you used to rub your tongue on mine like you used to put honey on your tea?
Ew.
Like, because he kept trying to be like, it's going to unlock something. And we're definitely going to go down that route.
Ugh, it's so annoying. So,
Grace.
Grace. I love you, Grace. I can't do it. I can't do his horrible accent. So, Kay is being comforted by her dad. She says, I saw mommy kissing David. I saw mommy kissing David.
Hastings. I couldn't remember the last name.
Yeah, she saw mommy kissing David Hastings,
and Sam does walk in. So, yeah, he saw. Yeah, it's. What's funny is I love that at some point, like, Sam is really shocked by all of this. It's evident in the actor's expressions.
As he should be. He literally just had a phone call with his wife today. Let's be clear. That conversation, yes, we watched it last week, but it happened like 30 minutes ago in the span of the show. It happened like on his lunch break while he was at work.
Yeah.
And now it's like the end of his work day. It happened like 3 hours ago. So he just had a conversation with her where she was like, I choose you. I'm divorcing David. I want nothing to do with him. I'm going to have the church annul our marriage. And then she kisses him? Mm-mm.
Yeah. Well, and
No.
Kay rightfully reports back and tells Sam what she saw.
Mm.
And I like that she also says, if you don't believe me, ask Simone. She saw it, and Simone's standing there like, why am I in it? Like
Yeah,
Simone's like, I mean, she did see it. I
she
mean,
did. And
yeah.
and later on, Simone says to Kay, like, I can't believe you ratted your mom
Oh, I got
out.
mad at that. I'm like, Simone, come on. How would you not tell TC if Eve kissed somebody? Like, if she's, yeah,
Please.
yeah, come
You
on.
know oh my God, if Eve kissed somebody other than TC, oh,
Yeah, yeah,
she would be yelling it from the rooftops,
yeah.
having all kind of convulsions.
No.
Please. This
Kay did
dramatic
the
girl.
yeah. Kay did the right thing. I mean, maybe if you had a little bit more patience, somebody would have waited to tell Sam something. But like, it literally happened seconds before Sam walked in.
Yeah.
Like the kiss happened. Sam walks in almost right after Kay
Yeah.
saw it.
There
So
was no time for conversation. There was no
yes,
time
no,
for like, girls, keep this to
yeah,
yourself.
because
Da, da, da.
also Kay wanted to see David's ass get beat. So she was like, "Go, Dad,
Yeah.
get him."
Well, Grace says to Sam, we need to discuss this in private. And so Sam sends Kay and Simone away. Kay storms out because she wants to stay, but she
Yeah,
leaves. And then um Sam goes after David immediately, runs over, says, who do you think you are? Did you really think you could get away with forcing yourself on my wife when I know she doesn't want you? Because again,
yeah,
he just had a conversation with Grace where she in fact said, I don't want David.
yeah.
So he says, I know for a fact she doesn't want you, so you had to have forced yourself on her. And then David says, she's my wife. And the
Yeah.
real crime here is you being intimate with her in my absence. And Sam rushes over to him,
Good.
jacks him up by the
Yep.
collar,
Holds him up.
and
Yep.
and he says, I will be guilty of killing you if you don't leave my family alone. I'm with Sam. I'm with Sam. I'll be guilty.
Yeah.
You think I'm guilty of that? I'll be guilty of killing you, murder, if you don't
Yeah.
leave my family alone.
Yeah.
And Grace pulls Sam away, pulls him off of David, and she says, Sam, I gave David permission to kiss me. And then she like explains what happened, which is what I just explained. But at no point did she give him permission. And Sam says as much. He says, so he tricked you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he tricked you. Yes, correct. He tricked her
Yeah.
into kissing him. And David says, well, I didn't tell her I was going to kiss her because I wanted it to be a surprise.
Yeah.
Excuse me, have you ever heard? I remember, this is horrible. This is trigger warning if anybody needs, just for the moment. Okay. When I was in middle school, I heard the most horrific joke I've ever heard in my life. Well, it's not the most horrific joke I've ever heard in my life, but up to that point, it definitely was. And
Yeah.
it has like stuck with me for so long. And the punchline was like, it's not rape, it's surprise sex.
Oh. Oh.
I know. And when he said, I didn't tell her I was going to kiss her because I wanted it to be a surprise, that like unlocked that memory. I heard that when I was in like the 7th grade. And it just gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Well,
It grossed me out.
but this is not this again to me for Sam and Grace who do not know what's going on. The man abducted her from Tabitha's house and took her over to the bed and breakfast. I just wanted to surprise her. Like, no, you are. And Sam's going to say something in a conversation with Grace in a little bit that I was like, oh, I'm so happy he took the words right out of my mouth. And we'll get to that. But Sam correctly describes why he hates David so much in a little bit. So,
Yes. We're coming up on that. So,
yeah.
he says, I didn't tell her I was going to kiss her because I wanted it to be a surprise. And I wanted to shock her into remembering her feelings for me. And she did. I felt it the moment our lips touched.
Yeah.
Sam turns to Grace and says, is that true? Do you remember your feelings for David? She says, I don't remember anything. Because of course she doesn't. Of course she doesn't remember anything. She's growing feelings for David.
Yes.
That is what's happening.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
David says to her, You're just afraid. You're afraid of being honest with Sam. You're afraid that I don't know what this accent is, but I'm going with it. You're
It's all
afraid of
good.
being honest with Sam. And then at this
It
point,
it sounded good. Don't second guess yourself. Right, that last one was good. The listeners are gonna know that that last chunk was really good.
okay, so at this point, Sam basically tells him, he goes, go on, scram, get out of here, out of here.
It's
And
they,
David says, you know what? I have to get back to work anyway. And, and Sam's like, oh, are you doing some kind of photo shoot here in Harmony? And he's like, actually, I'm building your house.
I hated that. So I have several things to say. One, there is an episode of The Golden Girls where Rose dates this guy named Thor Anderson, who is played by Ken Berry,
Yeah.
who actually played her brother in Mama's Family. This is Vinton Harper, but he is an episode of The Golden Girls. And the whole premise of this episode is that he remembers dating Rose, and Rose cannot remember this guy. And he's like, well, I'm really sad that you can't remember me, but can I have one last kiss? And she remembers the kiss, and it's like this pretty thing. He leaves, he's happy. Blanche walks in and says, oh, Rose, a kiss unlocked your memory. And she's like, yeah, that man couldn't kiss 30 years ago and he can't kiss now. So it did make me think of that. But yeah, the surprise thing is bullshit. Then we get this thing, which irritates the hell out of me, is that Grace is totally okay with him rebuilding the house. It's like, again, you said it earlier. She's growing feelings for him, and and again, I kept trying to give her this a little bit of a little bit of space, because I'm like, I would want to know about my past, and if this guy has a little bit of it, I'd like to know that. But other than honey in my tea, he's not coming up with a lot of stuff. Like, did you know Faith? Like, can you tell me a little bit more about Faith? Because I didn't get to know Faith as well as I don't remember Faith as much as I should have. Like, all of that stuff. Like, no, he has nothing. But she's like, yeah, you can rebuild. How weird. I would not want this guy rebuilding my house. Like,
It
it's,
is driving me crazy, actually.
and no, and nothing
Because,
on the actress. It's about Grace the
yeah, of course,
character.
it's about Grace. It's
Yeah.
about Grace. Because she keeps saying, well, I don't have feelings for David. No, he's a connection to my past, and I just want to learn more about my past. Then talk to him about your past. Why is he building your house?
Yeah, yeah.
Then talk
No,
to him about your past. Why are y'all kissing?
because you want
You
him
see what I'm
there.
saying? Like,
Yeah,
talk to him about your past, not about Sam and Ivy.
yeah,
Why talk to him about your past? Ask him questions about you.
yeah.
But she's not doing that at all.
No,
It's almost like she doesn't want to know about her past at
no.
all. Um, it's actually very interesting because she isn't asking him anything, but then when Sam brings up the idea of telling him to leave, she's like, well, he's the connection to my past, and I want to learn about my past. But you're not sitting down and having conversations with him about your
Yeah,
past.
and she also speaks to his character. He's like, he's a good man. Why would we send him away? He's trying to help us. Look, he's trying to build our house. Like, I'm like, how is a man gonna kiss you like that and want to rebuild the house for you and your current husband? That's
You know what?
bullshit.
You know what really upset me? Let's talk about this. So Sam questions Grace about why are you letting him help build a house? And she says, well, he wanted to help and it's what I want. And then Sam says, well, I don't trust him. He has an ulterior motive. Fair enough. I mean, that's so obvious. It's
Yeah,
glaringly obvious that he has an ulterior motive. Grace says there's nothing suspicious about David. He's a good man and he doesn't have any ulterior motives. What?
idiot ass. No, that's come
He
on.
has been so he's been so upfront about what his actual motives are. You're right,
Yes,
they're not ulterior. They're right there in your
exactly.
fucking face.
Let us
And
not. I was gonna say, let us not forget what was he doing all that time Ivy was in the hospital. Was he was like gaslighting her and being like, and manipulating her and being like, hey, well, look, he's obviously concerned about Ivy more. If he loved you more, he would have been here with you and on the beacon with Ivy. Like, he was doing all of the Ivy talk. Like, if you aren't interested in her, you're not gonna bring up Ivy. You did that on purpose because you're like, he flat out told her, like, I don't want to. I would leave you if I thought you were truly happy, but you're not because you should be with me. And yeah, and that
You
you're gonna get hurt
alone
by
with
Sam.
me.
Yeah.
He wears short skirts. I wear t-shirts. Anyway,
Oh, good. Let's make sure the Swifty bass is behind Passions.
yes. So, yeah, she says, I don't think that I would give my heart to someone who would lie and scheme and take advantage of me.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a fair enough assessment. But then again, when you married that man, you were 19, 20. Do you think, like, she needs to put herself in, like, Kay's shoes, right? And say,
Yeah.
what do I think? What do I think that Kay would make the best decision about who she should get married to right now? No,
Yeah.
probably not, because she's a child. And you were basically a child when you married this man. So, and
Yeah.
you're a different person now. But anyway, she said
This storyline in conjunction, this storyline and the Sheridan storyline was gonna make me think about Castaway. Like, I always think about, like, when I watch that movie and Helen Hunt and Tom Hanks, like, you love them both, and as a kid watching that movie, like, you want them to be together. And spoiler alert, they are not gonna stay together. And, like, there's this sense of realness to that, is that Helen Hunt has to mourn again that this man has come back into her life and she can't be with him. Like,
Yeah.
that part is over now. But her feelings are still there. And I think that that is so beautiful about Castaway. One of the, I love that damn movie, Wilson, Rum Ham.
Yeah.
I love that damn thing. Rum Ham! But, like, that Grace is like, I guess this is all kind of brand new for her, but I'm like, you have Sam here. Like, I don't understand. It's, and I'm gonna get to it in a little bit because we're about to get to this big thing that Sam mentions, and I'm like, yep, that's what it all boils down to.
So let's talk about this conversation that comes along here. So she says, I don't think I would give my heart to someone who would lie and scheme and take advantage of me.
Yeah.
And she says, I love you, Sam. But does that mean we can't be civil with David? Okay. Nobody said anything about not being civil with him, but being civil is saying that when I see you at the book cafe, I don't punch you in the fucking face. It's not letting you.
I was going to use that example. As soon as you said book cafe, I was thinking book cafe. Yeah.
It's not letting you build my house and letting you kiss my wife. It's not that. Those are not the same thing. That's not what being civil is.
You made out with my wife in front of my child in my neighbor's house. I mean, like,
am I supposed to be excited about that? Am I supposed to? No, ridiculous.
Here's the other travesty about all this. At some point, he's out there working on the house, and throughout this conversation, you're going to hear the construction as they're rebuilding the Bennett home. I just got to throw this out here. Grace looks at a shirtless David, and a shirtless David looks back at her, and I wrote down, a shirtless David does not compare to a shirtless Sam Bennett. And no offense to anybody, but it has to be said. I'm like, come on. I mean, Sam Bennett takes his shirt off for everything he does. The first thing he does when he gets to work is take his shirt off.
No, David out there and his trying his best, and he at one point like waves to Grace. He gave her that dumbass wave. He's just so irritating.
And Sam's like, why are you waving back?
He did. He was like, why are you waving at him? She's like, he waved at me. What am I supposed to just stand here?
Oh, my God. Yeah.
No, why is he here at this point? He should be gone.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Like, anyway. So, Sam is worried that David is Grace's great love of her life. He says to her, what if one day you remember, have your memories come back and you realize that actually he's the great love of your life. Sure, you may love me, but maybe he's the one great true love of your life.
Yeah.
And Grace says, I love you, and I don't remember my life before I met you. Unlike you and Ivy. And you know what? I'm gonna be 100% honest. I'm gonna be 100% honest. She is well within her right to bring up Ivy at this point.
Yes.
Like, if we fight fair.
Yes, we know Ivy has tried to break them up. she has seen Ivy and Sam in too many compromising positions, like situations.
And she says as
You are
much.
true.
She says, how many times have I heard you say you never get over your first love? And it turns out that Ivy was your first love. So does that mean that you never got over Ivy? Is she the great love of your life? And he says, no, Grace, you are the great love of my life. And he says, and then she says to him, so why can't you accept that you are also the great love of my life? I get where she's coming from here. I also understand where Sam's coming from, where he's saying like, but what if your memories come back and you realize
Yeah.
that actually, no, I'm not the great love of your life. And
Yeah.
we're seeing this mirrored in the Luis and
Yes.
Sheridan
Yes.
and Brian kind of storyline right now.
Yeah.
We're seeing like kind of how that could possibly happen.
Yeah.
And so, because we know the minute Sheridan lays eyes on Luis, she's going to be like, it's all
Yeah.
coming back to me. Fuck off, Brian.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Full on Celine Dion. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which, oh my gosh, have you heard about Celine Dion's illness?
I know. God bless her. It's so sad. I hope good health to her and her, family and friends. I hope they're
Yeah.
doing okay. But
Yeah.
what an amazing talent.
I love Celine Dion.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, she says, so why can't you accept that you are the great love of my life? And she then says, now you know how I'm kind of glad that you have like walked in on us kissing or found out about us kissing, because now you have an idea of how I felt each time I walked in on you and Ivy kissing. The only difference is David knows he doesn't have a chance with me. And then she cites what she heard Sam say in the hospital to Ivy. Again, I'm going to say this. Grace is correct. Grace is right in what she just said. Well, maybe now you know how it feels. Now, am I saying that is conducive to building your marriage and making your marriage stronger? No.
Yeah.
Because you can either be right or you can be in a happy marriage. Like,
Yes.
you know?
This is where Sam also claps back and he's like, what I hate about this is this guy is so possessive of you. Like, he comes in here and he's like, she's mine. And so, like, that's the other thing that I'm like, yeah, I agree with Sam. It really upsets me that this guy comes in here and is very possessive of Grace. It's not even it sounds like property, and it really does sound like that when he says it. And she says, with the kisses, Grace is like, well, he was just trying to help me jog my memory. Grace continues to make excuses for this man, which just really upsets me. Now, you are correct in the Ivy comparisons. Yes, she can say, now you know how it feels. But did I not say on this podcast that Grace has been wanting a little bit of revenge?
Yep, you did.
She wants Sam to have a little bit back of his, a bit back of your own, I think is what the phrase is. And if we had editors, I'd say roll the clip and go back to what I've said, because I'm like, at first I was like, well, maybe this isn't what it is, but you know what? She really is, whether it's subconscious or not, she is happy to be able to be like, do you know what I've been through? And she has every right, like you said, she has every right to feel that way about Ivy and Sam, but again, we full on know Ivy has been trying to penetrate this marriage and disrupt this marriage, destroy this marriage. Whereas Sam is still having to navigate this, like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? And though he is on one side, it is very clear that, I don't know, these situations are not the same, and it frustrates me.
Yeah.
It really frustrates me.
Yeah, I agree. She's definitely trying to get her get back and get her little revenge, going a little tit for tat. I understand how that could make her feel a little bit better too, saying, now you know how it feels. Because I think she also had been having trouble with getting back on track with Sam, because I think she felt like he didn't fully comprehend her feelings around the whole situation. I think she felt like he just wanted to keep getting along and just get over it and get past it, but he didn't have any. There was no retribution, right? And so, and she wasn't satisfied. She wasn't satisfied, and I get it. I get it. So, I actually like where this conversation goes.
Yeah.
Where Grace says to him, as long as you and I are honest with each other, no one can ever come between us, because they're telling each other some hard truths, especially But actually, on both sides, they're saying some hard truths. Sam is being vulnerable and saying, I'm worried that you are going to have your memories unlocked and this man's going to be the great love of your life. And he's being very vulnerable about that.
Yeah.
Versus, because before it was, David's not your husband. David's not your husband. I don't accept it. I don't accept it. I don't accept it.
Now he's relented. Yeah.
It's, I accept it, and I'm worried and I'm scared.
Yeah.
And he's being very vulnerable with her, and I love it and I appreciate that. And on the flip side of that, with Grace, her being honest about her feelings around, I'm not over the shit with Ivy. I'm not past it. I'm not over it, but I understand, and I think we can work through it. I really thought that where they went with this conversation was very mature, honestly, very beautiful. It's the kind of marriage you would aspire to, right? Like when somebody's trying to build a marriage and make their marriage stronger, they should be being as honest with each other as possible and being kind to one another, which I feel like they were doing in this and hearing each other out really well.
Yeah.
But then it's great. Sam says, I do want David to leave. I wish he would just leave. And Grace is like, well, he can tell me things about my past. I don't want him to go just yet. And she says, well, he's probably just dealing with his feelings. We should at least give him the time to deal with his own feelings. This is all a lot for him. It's like, girl, he's a grown-ass man. Yeah. And it's a lot for us.
Yeah.
What about me?
You have, but also, you have no house. Obviously, your daughter hates you right now. Like, they're not even talking about what just happened with Kay. They do not speak about, like, we need to go check on Kay. We have to have a family meeting. Noah doesn't know what the fuck's going on. Do we tell Jessica what just happened? Because Kay just saw this. Kay might tell Jessica. We need to, there's no conversation about how to parent the Bennett children. And so this is the other thing too, is it's like, this guy has caused you a lot of issues. You have no house. You're living in Tabitha's house. I mean, like, there's a lot going on, and you're sitting here going, I can't wait to learn about my past. It's like, I get that, but you need to fix what is happening in the present. And then you can start to figure out what was going on back then.
Yeah, Sam says, it seems like you don't want him to leave. And Grace says, maybe I don't. That's what she says. She says, maybe I don't. She says, I want him to stay around long enough for me to find out something about my past. David is listening in on this part of the conversation. He realizes, I think, and I might be wrong, but you've seen the future. Oh, great one. But he is overhearing, and I think he is gleaning what I gleaned from this, which is that their marriage is becoming healthy again.
Yeah.
And his only little like hitch in there, or the only way he can get back in is like through like Grace learning about her past, that kind of angle.
Yeah.
Or him dropping some sort of bombshell on her. And so I think this is where the wheels start to turning for him, where he's like, I got to do something, because soon Grace is going to also be ready for me to leave.
Yes.
You know, she's not ready for him to go yet, but he can tell that Sam will be able to move her in that direction, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, she says, I want him to stay long enough for me to find out something about my past. But again, you have not asked him one fucking question about your past. You haven't said, hey, can we go have coffee? Can we talk about the years 1989 through 1993? Like,
very generic. Just like, ask about faith. Ask about what job did I have? What was I going to major in? Like, what are some things that are genuine questions? But all of it's like, our deep love, no, I don't know. What's my favorite color? You already gave me honey in my tea. Like, give me something else.
Did we have any pets? Do I have any allergies? That's a good question to ask.
Yeah. You're allergic to tomato soup, Grace. Don't ever taste it.
So let's talk about Hank real quick. Meanwhile, Hank is getting more and more suspicious of David. And he's, for once, again, on one side, Hank is an idiot. On the other side, Hank recognized game. And we all remember that Hank is a criminal.
Yeah.
Hank was a criminal, a prolific one, apparently.
Many lies to Sheridan Crane.
He was on the FBI's most wanted list.
Yeah.
So he's seeing David, and he's like, this guy's a little too good to be true.
Yep.
What kind of guy What kind of guy finds out that his wife is alive after 20 years, but is married to somebody else and has a whole life, and then volunteers to help build their house? No,
Nobody.
that's
Yeah.
nonsense. And then he also talks about um how what I've been saying for a while now about how he says Sam searched all of Massachusetts when he found Grace for somebody who knew Grace. Why didn't they ever find him?
Yeah.
Didn't he ever come out the woodwork? And he's like, something is just off about this. They did a whole investigation all up and down Massachusetts. He says he knew she was in Boston, so why didn't he go to Boston and look for her?
Yeah.
Why wasn't, and he's absolutely right. I agree. Hank is on the right path. And I don't remember, is Hank the one that like exposes everything eventually?
I
Probably
cannot
not.
remember. The ancient tome foretells that I can't remember.
But he says if David really wanted to find her, he would have.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he said. He would have found her if he really wanted to find her. I'm with Hank on that. So that's it for troubled marriages for me for right now. Is that it for you?
Yes. Theresa. All right, Theresa and Ethan.
Theresa.
You remind me of a West Side Story. Growing up in Spanish Harmony.
Yeah. Their house is Spanish Harmony.
It is. It is all condensed into that one family.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, so we pick up and everybody's they call it the library now. I guess I'll just start calling it the library. There's no books.
I thought it was Julian's office or Julian's study or something.
I did too. But now we're calling it the library, and I'm fine with that. There's just not enough books for me to think it to be a library. But anyway, everybody's in there, and Ivy has just exposed Theresa's signature on annulment papers. Yes, that Julian had on his desk or whatever. So Ethan is questioning if Theresa really married Julian.
Are you married to the man I grew up knowing was my father?
Exactly. And Rebecca also enters the room and is like, what the hell's going on here? Of course.
Yeah.
So everybody's looking to Theresa for answers about these annulment papers. Let's talk about these annulment papers for a moment. Apparently on these papers, it says Mrs. Julian Crane, and then she has to sign her name at the top. Why wouldn't it have Theresa Lopez Fitzgerald printed and then she signed? Have you ever?
Yeah. I have not, but I would assume that it would say spouse. Like shouldn't it just say spouse?
I would assume if you're drawing up papers that have people's specific names on them, which these papers do,
it would just say Theresa Lopez Fitzgerald.
Yeah, it says Mrs. Julian Crane, and I imagine the other side says Julian Crane. So why wouldn't it just whatever? It's for the plot, Tara. Shut up. So everybody's turning to Theresa for answers. Ethan's like, of course you're not married to Julian. You're not married to Julian. Of course you're not. Ivy's like, boy, come to your senses. What else could this mean? Yeah. Rebecca starts putting all the little pieces together.
Oh, yeah. She's putting it all together.
Oh, this explains why the two of you were so huddled up in Bermuda, always chit-chatting clandestinely. And she was just like, she saw some things in Bermuda that had already had her wheels spinning.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, Theresa, you little gold digger, you'll do anything to get your paws in the Crane fortune, you little slut.
Yes, she calls and she says, your whole family's a bunch of gold diggers. Who do you have your eye on, Pilar? Alistair?
Well, that's what Pilar, when she says, you little slut, Pilar goes after Rebecca saying, how dare you speak to my daughter that way? And she's like going over to her.
Pilar's about to beat some ass, yeah.
Always. And what's his name? Ethan had to pull her by her arm and stop her. And that's when Rebecca says, you know, your whole family is nothing but a bunch of gold diggers. First your son with Sheridan, your daughter with Ethan, now with Julian. And who are you trying to get with? Pilar. Oh my God. They said Pilar.
Yeah, they say Pilar
so
a lot.
Many times.
Yeah.
Last week and this week. I don't think I mentioned it last week, but it started grating on me. Pilar.
Yeah. Which is funny because it's Pilar. Like that, the correct pronunciation it would be Pilar. People would be like, "Y Pilar, cómo está Pilar?" But for Pilar, it's like a real
Pilar.
Even Pilar's better. like I'm okay with Pilar, Pilar,
Pilar.
Pilar. What's
Yeah,
funny
because if
is,
you're gonna say it in an English accent,
yeah,
Pilar. But if you're gonna go Pilar,
yeah,
no.
no, it's really annoying. When I used to get my hair cut, the woman reminded me of Pilar, and so but I should have known her name, and I'm an asshole. I was a kid, so
Eh,
I'll forgive myself. But everybody, my mom would be like, "Mom, I'm gonna go get my hair cut." Ah, you're gonna go with Pilar? Like we all called her Pilar. And even my dad thought that was her legit name because my dad got his haircut with her too, and we got to the point where my dad would just be like, "All right, I'll be back. I'm going to Pilar's," and like we would call her that, but she
That's
was
so
not.
funny. That's
But
not her
she
name.
just no. God bless. And what's
That's
funny is
hilarious.
she looked more like Christina, the woman who played Pilar's sister-in-law. But anyway, just random. But it is funny. I mean, it still
Yeah.
makes. I mean, I look like even when my mom will like overhear me playing something, she'll laugh every time. Like we just think it's so silly and so funny.
Yeah. It
But yes,
is.
Pilar was about to kick some ass, and
She was. And then
yeah,
Ethan turns around and says, "You know what? We should let Theresa explain. Teresa, what's
hmm
going on?" And she does some quick thinking.
she's brilliant. The girl's brilliant.
And I mean, it's a good enough lie to get over on an idiot like Ethan. She says, "Oh, I didn't know what I was signing. Are those
Yeah,
annulment papers? I didn't know I was signing that. I came here to ask Julian Crane for money to help with Ethan's law firm. See, here's the check." She takes out the check, shows everybody the check that he bought, that he wrote for her. She says, "He told me to sign something. I thought those were loan papers."
yeah,
Ethan buys it, hook, line, and sinker,
yeah.
immediately is buying it and is very understanding. He's like, "I understand that you wanted to do something to help me, but you should understand that we shouldn't take Crane money. Any Crane money comes with strings." He tears up the check. Fine. Ivy, of course, is not satisfied because she's not an idiot like her son is.
Exactly. And she's like, "But why do you have annulment papers, Julian?"
Hmm. And he says, "Oh, Harper had those faxed over because he thought maybe Ivy would go for an annulment."
Well, I have not been on here since I think since the introduction of Harper, or maybe I have, but I do have a Harper impression for you.
I'd love
Uh,
it.
well, first of all, Julian, you got to be careful with Rebecca. I mean, I was like, so, and God bless the actor, but it is so funny when he's talking. I'm just like, oh, this is so grating. I'm like, it's just so. If Rebecca's gonna, if Pilar, he's one of the ones. He is the
They all
worst
do it.
perpetrator of Pilar. If Pilar found out that you slept with Pilar's daughter, I'm like, oh my god, this is.
Yeah. My favorite thing about Harper is that he hates Julian.
Yeah,
I love that he's just like sick of Julian.
yeah. He's
Oh my
like,
god.
listen, I've been protecting the Crane name for hundreds and thousands of years, and you are you're the one. Like Harper's been around as long as Tabitha. I think he might be a
Uh,
warlock because he's barely hanging in there. God bless him.
yeah, poor
But
Harper.
yeah.
Working for these cranes has aged him.
Yeah. What's funny is
Julian's
Harper is
antics.
actually 35. If you, yeah, in the world of passion, he's
Julian's
just been
antics have
aged
aged
so
him
much.
poorly. Okay,
Yeah.
so Ivy's not satisfied. She asks Julian, "Why do you have annulment papers in the first place?" He says Harper faxed him over saying that maybe you would go for an annulment. Why would
It's
It's stupid.
stupid.
It's so stupid.
You know Ivy better than that. Yeah.
Ethan says, "No, there will be a legitimate divorce. My mother will receive everything she deserves, and we're contesting the divorce until she gets her real settlement." Then he tells Theresa, "No more secrets between us,
Yeah.
okay, you young lady."
1,000 times.
And he says, "You should have just told me you were going to go ask Julian for the money." Yes, this is the same, because this is the exact same thing she did when she went to Bermuda, and
Yeah.
that's what I said when she went to. I was like, why wouldn't she just tell Ethan?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't she just tell Ethan? She doesn't trust him.
Yeah.
When it comes right down to it, she does not trust Ethan. I was thinking about that during these episodes, and I don't know if it's because she also knows he's an idiot. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, but she doesn't trust him to love her truly. I guess she's just insecure about their love really
Yeah.
badly. Like,
I think because of the class structure that is such a big part of their relationship story, is that she always is going to feel undeserving of Ethan, because she is the housekeeper's daughter. And I don't say that in a bad way. I just say it in the way that that is how the characters talk
yeah,
about them. And she has heard it so many times, is that Pilar, a single mom who works two jobs, who loves her kids and never
who
stops,
loves her kids and never stops with gentle hands and the
and the
heart
heart of
of
a
a
fighter.
fighter. She's a
Pilar's a survivor.
survivor.
Yeah. Is that she has that in her head that she's undeserving, and that any screw up is a major screw up, and it is over. And that's not the case.
Yeah,
What we have seen every time Ethan finds out about a lie, he actually comes through and is on her side. So it's at this point that she's her own worst enemy, and Rebecca and Gwen know that and utilize that all the time. Pilar knows that as well. She says that to Theresa herself. She's like, "You need to come." Whitney tells her, I mean, everybody. But you know what I have found is that we all have that person in our lives where you tell them and tell them and tell them and tell them what they need to do, and it's in one ear and out the other. And Teresa's that person.
yeah. Theresa is her own worst enemy. She doesn't trust Ethan to love her,
Hmm.
which is so sad and unfortunate. But yeah, so he tells her, no more secrets. You should have just told me you were going to see Julian. I would have told you, like, not to do that.
Yeah.
And then everybody leaves except for Rebecca and Ivy go out into the hallway together. Like, they're talking to each other.
My favorite group of
And
frenemies.
they begin to kind of form this unholy alliance
Oh,
against
yes.
Theresa. It's not fully formed yet, but we're at the
Yeah.
beginning of it. So just keep that
It,
little
it, it will be
nugget.
coming up because, first of all, Rebecca says at some point that Ivy deserves a good kick in the butt. But as they sneak away, she says they both know something's wrong. Like they're not idiots. They're very smart. And Rebecca says to Ivy, "I told you about Teresa and you didn't listen." And she goes, "I regret not having listened to you." She's like, "But you know what? We're here where we're at, and we just got to keep moving forward." And they
Yeah.
both have their guards up, and they both know that the biggest thorn in their side is going to be Teresa, according to them.
Yeah. Yeah. So Julian is back in his library office
Yeah,
and he calls for new annulment papers. He calls Harper. He says, I need new annulment papers. Those other ones got ripped to shreds because one of them ripped them up. I don't know who. Oh, Ivy, of course. Because she was like, I won't do this, da da da, and throws them away.
yeah,
Rebecca walks back into, because he never closes this door. And so, of
yeah.
course, people can overhear his phone calls all the time or whatever's happening in this library. So she overhears the tail end of this conversation, comes in and pretends like she didn't hear any of it.
Yeah. I do
And
like
she's,
that when he is talking to Harper, Julian says, "I have to go. Rebecca's here, seemingly unarmed."
oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was funny.
Yeah, because remember last week she had that big ass gun.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, she was shooting. Yeah,
Yeah. So, Rebecca comes in and she says she's got that sweet, sultry vixen voice on. She's like, "Oh, Pookie, I just wanted to apologize for ever not believing you. Of course,
yeah,
you would never marry someone like Teresa."
yeah,
And she starts to kind of seduce him, like, we're gonna start having sexy time now. And of course,
yeah.
this perks Julian up. He's all for it. She's like, why don't we play boss and secretary?
Yes. She says, "Why don't
Um,
we pretend I'm your assistant and we're working on a late night merger?" And he says, "Yes, and I'm about to give you dictation.
yeah, there was a lot of innuendo in these
Give it
scenes.
to me, Pookie.
Ugh.
Give it
Ugh.
to me, Pookie." And
All
all
the
the girls
girls
say
say
Julian's pretty fly for a white guy.
for an old guy. So, he she pulls out when he's like behind her and she pulls out like this piece of paper folded up from her cleavage, and she's like, she seems very happy, very satisfied with whatever this is, lays it on
Mhm.
the desk. They go back to like doing like role play stuff, and then she presents this paper to him like, oh, I need your signature right here, boss, or whatever, doing the
Yeah.
thing. And he signs it because it's part of the role playing. And that's when she's like, ha ha, gotcha.
Yeah.
She's like, we're going to get married tomorrow. And he says to her, what do you mean? We can't get married tomorrow. She says, according to this, we can. And turns out she has tricked him into signing a marriage certificate for
Yes,
tomorrow.
they signed a wedding license, and I love this because now we're gonna get this run on. It's gonna happen, so be prepared of how happy Rebecca is to be the second Mrs. Julian Crane. And this is the emphasis by the writers to let us know. Obviously, the inside joke is that she would be the third one, but they say it nonstop from this
Yeah.
point forward.
She's
So
actually been
yeah,
saying it since the moment she showed up on the island after Theresa married
yeah,
Julian. She's
and
like,
they
I'm
won't
gonna be the
stop.
second Mrs. Julian Crane. I'm gonna be the second Mrs. Julian Crane. It's like, okay, we get it. Um,
You sneaky seductress. Yeah,
yep,
he's not happy.
he is not happy. And then he tries to kind of weasel out of marrying her, saying, this is all a bit hasty, don't you think? And she tells him, well, you're acting awfully peculiar. And then, of
Mhm.
course, she brings up the annulment papers and she asks him if he married Theresa. Asks him outright, did you marry Theresa in Bermuda? And he says, uh, no. Oh, and he
Yeah,
agrees because she says something about Theresa being a liar.
yeah.
And you can't believe anything that she says. So that's why she asks him outright, did you marry Theresa? And he says, yes, you're right. The girl is downright pathological. And he says, and also there isn't enough alcohol in the world to convince me to marry anyone of her ilk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Julian is like weirdly obsessed with being married to Theresa. Like
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
he's really just saying that he didn't even really need to get drunk to marry
Well,
Theresa.
exactly. And at some point, I mean, oh yeah, he's very much obsessed with the idea. At some point, he tells Harper, like, "Oh, you should have seen her. She was absolutely incredible, coming up with this epic lie about me giving her the wrong paperwork." She goes, "If I would have known any better, she'd be a true Crane. Like she deserves to be a Crane." And
Mm-hmm.
it's like he's really, I mean, he fetishizes her, but he's like really like there's other words to describe what he does with her as as his Mrs. Crane. Like if he could, he'd definitely be walking around with her as the true Mrs. Julian Crane.
He
But
definitely sees her as worthy of being Mrs. Julian
yeah,
Crane
yeah,
because she's young, she's beautiful, and he's learning that she also is very smart, right?
yeah,
So I think he does see her as worthy. Because also Julian thinks with his dick, he thinks
yes,
she's
yeah,
hot. He can't get a girl that beautiful to be with him
yeah,
on the regular,
yeah.
on the
We haven't
reggy
talked
reg.
about we talk about little Julian a lot in the future episodes, but little Julian is the navigator of what his choice, the decision making process is.
Yeah. So he tells her there's not enough alcohol in the world to convince me to marry someone of her ilk. Then he butters her up some more about how great she is and how he wants her to be his wife and nobody else and how much he loves and cares about her, right? And how sexy she is.
Yeah,
And then she's like, "That's good because I would hate to have to testify against you in Sheridan your murder trial for
and we get that
Sheridan."
replay of basically her standing up in court saying like I knew this
Yeah,
the whole time and Julian has killed Sheridan Crane.
yeah. So, meanwhile, while all of this is happening, Theresa and Ethan go back to the book cafe,
Yes.
and Ethan brings Whitney and Chad up to speed on what just happened at the mansion. And he's like, but it's silly because I don't know how I believed for even a second that Theresa was married to Julian. He gets up to go get coffee. Theresa goes with him. Chad turns to Whitney and is like, that's the secret, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. So fast. He is because we draw out question. Chad is probably one of the smartest characters in this whole soap opera because he always clocks all of this stuff because it takes forever for somebody to find out a secret and he can read Whitney so fast and he puts two and two together and it was in seconds that he
Yeah,
figured it out and
I'm a
it
big
is
fan.
oh yeah.
I'm a big fan of Chad,
Every time. Oh
especially.
yeah, Chad. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying, like in the future, I will continue to see more Chad stuff of him just being a good guy and like not doing anything wrong, and it just blowing up in his face.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Chad right now because he says some things here that I really agree with, because he says to Whitney, so that's the secret.
Yeah.
Teresa's married to Julian, and then Whitney explains that yes, they got married in Bermuda, and Theresa. Let me read what I wrote on my notes,
Okay.
because I know I took these notes fairly well. So yes, that Julian and Theresa are actually already married. Whitney comes clean about that, basically. Chad says, I gotta tell my friend, like, I can't let him walk around, bopping around, looking like an idiot, like Boo Boo the Fool, walking around with
Yeah.
this married woman. And Whitney tries to stop him and says, no, Chad, you can't tell him, like, it can't come from you, number one. Like, do you really want to be the person to end their relationship for good? And then Whitney starts like victim blaming Theresa.
Yes, she did bring that up.
It
I
was
wrote
like
that down.
she
Go ahead,
was
go
like
for it.
she was drinking champagne, and Chad rightfully says to her, "So he got her drunk." Thank you, Chad. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chad. Yes, he says, "So he got her drunk." And then Whitney says, "Yeah, but she could have stopped. It's not like he was pouring champagne down her throat." Huh?
Yeah.
What? This is your friend you're talking to. Ugh, I was disgusted.
Yeah. You can I mean,
Um,
again, it's a product of its time, and you know who the writers were full. I'm sure they were full on white. Because I just don't think. Well, I hate the topsy-turviness of Whitney's character writing, in that, like, she will defend Teresa to the bitter end, but here she's telling Chad, like, well, she kind of deserved it. And it's
I
like,
will say, this actually is on par for Whitney. I feel like she has always been very judgmental.
yes, yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. I do think Whitney would have been a better suited daughter for Pilar. Like, the two of them together are pretty much always on the same page.
They wouldn't even be in this show. They'd be so boring.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, they'd be living a perfect life.
Yeah.
They would be very happy together, Gilmore girling somewhere else.
Yo, I used to love the Gilmore Girls. I was like a big fan, and I started rewatching it. What I did was I watched the like Netflix A Year in the Life season.
Yeah.
Did you watch that? Did you ever watch Gilmore Girls?
I
So you
know a
like,
little bit of it. It's not, I'm a Golden Girls versus a Gilmore Girls.
well, and
You
Golden
happen to
Girls
live in
is
both
superior.
worlds. Yes.
Golden Girls is superior, but Gilmore Girls, I watched A Year in the Life when it came out. That was a few
Yeah.
years ago. And it had been years since I had watched the Gilmore Girls. But I remembered I loved it. I had like this beautiful box set of the Gilmore Girls that a friend of mine bought for me and gave me, that I ended up one time I had to like hawk it because I was broke. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I watched A Year in the Life and I was like, oh my God, these bitches are insufferable.
Yeah.
Like they are insufferable.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if Gilmore Girls has aged well for me. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
There was an episode of Let's Make a Deal, and the question of Let's Make a Deal with Wayne Brady was like, you have to decide what the audience had polled beforehand, and if you got it right, you won money. And it said Gilmore Girls or Golden Girls, and that lady responded with Gilmore Girls, and she lost the
Of course
money.
she did.
And she
Of course
and
she
he
did. So
goes,
many more people have
yeah,
seen the Golden Girls.
and Wayne Brady's like, I think I mean, like, that's a bad mistake. Like, why'd
Yeah,
you do that?
that's a gimme. That's a gimme.
Yeah.
Oh well. Okay, so back to these girls.
Yes.
Whitney, yes, like I said, this is very on brand for Whitney. She's always been very judgmental. Yes, she's ride or die for Theresa, but she never does it without a little bit of judgment or a lot of bit of
Yes.
judgment. You know.
Yeah. And
Um,
sometimes correct, and sometimes ease up.
and the
Because
minute
just
she
because
heard that
Teresa's
Theresa,
out living life doesn't mean that you can't. Like, there's a difference. Like, Teresa's not always making epic failures like this. Like,
well,
and not that I'm saying, oh, God bless it, I keep smacking this thing. Julian obviously did this. This is Julian's, like, she was not there. She didn't see that. She should not be doing this to Teresa and saying Teresa, like, made this happen to her. It's just really frustrating when, you give her grace on some things, but you're not going to give her grace here. Like,
listen, this has been Whitney. Whitney has not changed.
Yeah.
Whitney has been saying the exact same thing from the moment Theresa decided to go to Bermuda.
And I think there's jealousy in this. I
You
think
think so?
it. I think Whitney wishes she could be that carefree, that like Whitney's very logical, and Theresa is very much like go with my feelings, and
Ugh.
Theresa can't do that.
I hear
And
you. I hear you. I hear you. I do. I do. But in this moment,
oh, of course, yes.
Teresa's the last person I'm jealous of. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
I
But
do hear you though, because I have a friend. Shout out to Cameron, one of my best friends in the world. He's more like a brother to me. But Cameron and I are so different. But Cameron is like shameless.
yeah,
Like he doesn't know any shame. He doesn't know any. So he's not afraid to ask what other people might think of as like a stupid question. He's like, well, if I
yeah,
don't know, I don't fucking know, you know.
yeah.
But he's not afraid, and I do envy that in him. We've talked about that before. I do envy that in him. I feel like, so I understand where you're coming from.
So
Like
that might be more
seeing
of what I'm trying
seeing
to
a
say.
trait,
Yeah.
seeing a
Yes.
trait in another person that you're like, man, how can you be like that? And sometimes I wish I could be like that, but
And
I also know that my life is better because I'm not like that all the
Yeah, and
time.
I
You know
think
what I
that
mean?
that's the thing is that, and that's probably why they're so suited. Like, I'd love if we could do a like a bonus episode and just say who, what, and I don't know a lot about astrology. I'm a Leo. I'm very much a Leo. But like, we should just sit down and go, what are the astrological signs of these characters?
We do.
Because I know full well that Theresa and Whitney have to be very specific astrological signs for them to be the friendship that they have, because they really are complementary toward each other.
We have to at some point decide for ourselves what
Yeah.
each person is, and then look and see what their technical birthdays are on the show. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. I
And see
wish
what
that
their
we
signs
yeah,
are on the
because that
show.
would be interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
because like Charity has a birthday coming up. When is Charity's birthday?
Yeah.
If it's in January, if okay, so
October,
we're October
November.
going into December. Yeah, like, but well, I want, so since I've looked into the future, I can tell you that her birthday. The idea of her birthday lasts months long. So it sounds like it's coming up tomorrow, and it is going to be past the new year, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it is interesting, right? But yes, Whitney and Theresa are perfect for each other as friends. They need each other.
Yeah.
But this is one of those examples where Whitney is just like you said, the word judgmental.
Yeah.
I'm
She's
happy,
so
I'm
judgmental.
appreciative. Yeah,
Yeah, we
that you
gotta move
said
on.
that.
So anyway, Whitney manages to keep Chad from telling Ethan. He's like, okay, I won't say anything.
Yeah.
Fine. Then they all end up going back to Teresa's house, where Ethan is like, we need to start filling out our new paperwork for our marriage. And so
Yeah.
they sit down. Teresa, he says, okay, Teresa, I got everything filled out. I just need you to sign it. She goes over. Whitney's like, girl, you can't sign that. It's illegal. Teresa goes and signs it anyway. Because it's only illegal. Because it's only illegal if you file it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes, that's true. It
it's
is
not illegal
true.
right here in my
It's very
living room.
true.
It's only illegal if I file it. So she signs it. Then Ethan's like, great, I'm going to go file it right now. I got a buddy down at the courthouse who will probably put a rush on this. Teresa manages to get him not to do that. And
Yeah.
then they sit down and start like planning out this wedding. And then Father Lonigan shows up for absolutely no reason but to sow seeds of discord.
Yep.
He shows up, knock, 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 comes in. Oh, come on in, Father. It's Ethan answers the door. He's like, come on in, Father. We were just talking about getting married, and we were just doing our paperwork. And Father's like, I'm sorry, I thought you understood, Ethan. I cannot marry you.
Again, this man stood in front of the face of evil, aka Tabitha and Timmy, and is like, I don't have time to deal with you all. I gotta go tell Teresa, hey, did you get that paperwork done? Cause you suck. Like, that's what he went to go do. That's what he went to go do. He didn't go prepare for mass. He didn't go, prepare the Eucharist. Like, he went to go tell Tabitha. I mean, he went to leave Tabitha and Timmy to go talk to Teresa and be like, hey, you suck. Did you fix it or no? And I'm gonna tell if somebody asks me, because I'm not part of your lies.
He's like, I'm sorry, Ethan. I cannot marry you. I thought you understood. Ethan, who has never understood anything a day in his life. Ethan is like, I'm sorry, Father, I don't understand.
I don't blame him. I'm confused too.
You know what? I thought about it as I was watching. I was like, he says that a lot. I don't
Yeah.
understand. I
Yeah.
don't understand.
Yeah.
So poor Ethan.
Yeah.
And so Father Lonigan just stands there. He doesn't say anything. Theresa jumps in and she's like, oh, Father said he couldn't marry us until all the proper paperwork was filed. And tomorrow, all the proper paperwork will be filed.
Yeah. If you know Theresa or Lindsay Hartley, like the actress, you know she's got those beautiful doe eyes and they're big. They went even bigger to Father Lonigan, who cannot see.
Yeah, so, she was giving him visual cues. He was giving him visual cues.
What's funny is I complimented the writing in that, like, they welcome him in and Teresa's like, also Chad and Whitney are here. Like, they're doing things to make sure and take care of this person who cannot see. But she's also, like, trying her best to emote to us, the audience, that she's telling, you know, Father Lonigan, hey,
zip it, bro.
I got you. We're good. Stop talking. You don't need to say. You don't need to. But no one's asking him to lie. Well, I don't know. I defend Theresa a lot. Yeah.
No, listen. She's not asking him to lie. She's doing the lying.
Yeah.
All he has to do is stand silently.
Yeah.
And honestly, she wasn't really telling any lies. She said, "You said all the paperwork had to be filed.
Yes.
And tomorrow the paperwork will be filed."
The thing is, so confidentiality in the confession is a must. It is a thing. He can't say anything. What is told to him in confession. I don't know if he's like having guilt because he heard it in the kitchen in the Lopez Fitzgerald house. Whatever the case is, he still can't be telling people other people's business.
Yeah, I think I think he has a certain.
He morally does not want to be part of these lies.
I think he has a certain code that he lives by. And so he's like, I don't want to be a party to the lies. So he tells Theresa as much. She walks him out, trying to get him out of there as fast as possible. She walks him out. She's like, I'm sorry, Father. Mother's not here right now. Mama's not here, but I'll tell her you came by. She walks him out and he tells her, I'm very disappointed in you, Theresa, for your dishonesty. He says, a marriage built on lies is a sham, and I will not be a part of these lies and deceptions. Be honest with the man you love or your future with him is doomed. And then he leaves. She's upset, but she puts on a happy face and goes back into the room and pretends like nothing has happened. Meanwhile, because this episode about to be 3 hours long, we gotta keep going. Meanwhile, because we still gotta do this and Sheridan and Louise. Lord Jesus. Meanwhile, Ivy over at the mansion questions Pilar about what Julian and Theresa are hiding.
Yes.
So she's back up in her room now after all of the hoopla with the annulment papers. And she says, Pilar, tell me the truth. Is Theresa hiding something? And that's going to hurt Ethan. Pilar says, Theresa would never hurt you or Ethan on purpose.
Hey, yes. That's not a lie. Where is the lie?
It's not a lie. She's
no lies detected.
Tiptoeing around it. Tiptoeing through the tulips. And then Ivy says, Theresa is responsible for everything that's wrong in my life.
And I am so happy Pilar claps back. Pilar has an epic speech. She says, oh, Theresa's the reason you have been suffering. You have been suffering in style. She did not condemn you into that wheelchair, but I can show you who is responsible. And Pilar holds up a mirror to Ivy and says, take a good look.
No,
it's you.
It was lovely. She said, Theresa isn't the one who got pregnant by Sam Bennett on her wedding night and then passed off the baby as Julian Crane so she could live and suffer in luxury. Theresa certainly isn't the one who climbed up a ladder in the middle of a hurricane and got struck by lightning and fell and broke her spine and is now in a wheelchair. No, Ivy, Theresa is not responsible, but I'll show you who is. Take a good look in the mirror and see who is responsible. It was great. It was great.
It was like, very good.
Theresa is responsible for everything that happened, has gone wrong in your life. No, girl, it started with your lies.
And again, it's this thing that she's holding on to. It's this, oh, well, she released this to the tabloid. Okay, that is under your assumption. And again, she has to reconcile with the truth of like, I don't understand why you're sitting there going, what does Theresa benefit from Ethan becoming a Bennett versus a Crane? Like that is the first thing. It makes no sense. But then for you to blame you being in a wheelchair, for you to blame your, all of that other stuff, you can't do that. The
For
divorce, all of that
everything.
stuff.
She said for
Yeah.
everything that's wrong in her
Yeah.
life.
No.
Every single
Nah.
thing.
No.
It's crazy. But Pilar set her the fuck straight. She really did. And I was like, yes. Because I was incredulous. What? Teresa's the problem? So anyway, Ivy says, I don't want to fight with you, Pilar. That's what she always says when Pilar has her dead to rights.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to fight with you, Pilar. We've been friends for over half our lives. And she says, I understand.
And I hate the manipulation of their friendship. You have opened my eyes. I've said this many times, and this is another moment that you gave me, is that I hate that it's so one-sided because she does this to Pilar all the time.
I cannot for the life of me understand why Pilar has not gotten herself another job somewhere else
I know.
in this town at this point.
In the narrative,
after learning everything that happened with Julian, now you have to be in this house all the time. And you know that Ivy's on her fucking way out. Get another job. Because if y'all are really friends, y'all will still be friends if you get another job. She might be mad at you because you got another job, but that will also just show you her true colors, that she's angry with you, that you don't want to be in this house of horrors where she shouldn't be either.
You are absolutely right. I don't think, again, this is the Latino thing is like, the Latinx thing is that it annoys me in that, like, I don't know of anyone who could sit there and hear all this bullshit about their daughter and still work for the person. And I know that they have been friends, and I know that this is kind of new in the world of Passions, is that the secret had come out and stuff, but it's too flagrant. It's too many times. You know what? If I were Pilar, I'd already gone to Jonathan Hotchkiss and been like, hey, do you need a maid? Like, go somewhere else because,
She has a lot of skills, too. Like, apparently she's a great cook. She does like needlework and like sewing and does all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of things in this town. I'm sure she would be able to go to the fucking cannery.
Yeah.
Damn.
But also, like, let's think about this. She is not just because they keep reducing her to the house, the housekeeper or the maid, but she runs the house. Like, she is. It's if you think about Downton Abbey, like there is somebody in charge of running the housekeeper,
Mrs. Down.
Yes,
Mrs.
she's
Hughes.
the head of the house. Yeah.
She's the Mrs. Hughes of the house.
Yes. So it's not like she's just dusting stuff. She is making sure all that shit gets run correctly.
Yeah,
she happens to be Ivy's like personal person. So anyway.
So yes, Pilar says, I'm sorry, Ivy says, I don't want to fight with you. I understand you will protect and defend your daughter just as I will for Ethan. Understand? You know what? That's a fair place to stop this whole thing. She says, I just want to make sure that Ethan doesn't get hurt by more lies and secrets. And she says, can you look me in the eye and tell me that Theresa isn't hiding anything from Ethan? Pilar looks at her and says, Theresa would never intentionally do anything to hurt Ethan. She loves him as much as you do. Ivy says, okay, that's all well and fine, but you did not answer my question. I'm still suspicious. Are you telling me I don't have anything to worry about? Any other secrets of Theresa's? There's no more secrets of Theresa's that are going to come out and maybe hurt my son? And Ivy says, if you tell me it's not true, I will believe you. Pilar looks her in the eyes and she says, she isn't keeping anything from Ethan. She lied. She leaves the room. She's like, oh God, Theresa, now you've got me lying for you. Ivy knows she's lying. Ivy's like, Ivy's like, that's sweet, girl, but I can read you like a book.
I don't know if you noticed this because obviously we know that the pennant means a lot to her, but she always will do this like thing. The actress will hold, and again for listeners, she caresses her necklace back and forth a lot. I've noticed that choice for the actress, especially now that she is in that wheelchair. But she's just like, oh, Pilar, I've known you half our lives, and I know you're lying to me.
Yeah, when the wheels are spinning. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
good stuff.
Ivy knows that Pilar is lying. So she calls up Jerry, who is the head of security. What happened to Frank Lomax? Man got fired for being bad at his job, chasing after underage girls.
LeTara, you are really good at remembering all this stuff. I mean, I know it's your job, but like,
You know what?
I cannot cement these side characters' names. I mean, I could barely even remember Harper. How am I supposed to remember Frank Lomax?
Whenever we had such a long running joke about Frank Lomax that I will never forget it. I'll never forget it. But yeah, Jerry is the new head of security, and Ivy tasks him with going to Bermuda and figuring out whatever it is that Julian and Theresa are hiding. What is their secret? She gives him, she says, Julian has my accounts frozen, but here is it was like a bracelet. She gave him like some jewelry and was like, this should be more than enough to cover your costs. And he heads on down to Bermuda. I'm going to just finish up with what happens in Bermuda. So he goes to Bermuda. She calls him like, what do you know? What's going on?
Yeah.
When he's in Bermuda, he finds the justice of the peace and he starts questioning him. And he tells Ivy, yeah, I talked to the justice of the peace and he didn't say anything, but it's what he didn't say that was more important.
Yeah.
When I asked about Julian and Theresa, he really froze up and he got really scared. I could tell. So I'm gonna dig for more information with him. So we end him in Bermuda where has like kind of cornered the justice of the peace.
Yes,
so just so you know, that's going on. And Ivy is expecting some information from Jerry soon on what happened between Theresa and Julian. So later, Rebecca comes in and tells Ivy that she is going to marry Julian tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll marry you tomorrow. Marry your husband tomorrow, bitch.
Yeah.
She comes in and tells her they're getting married tomorrow. Ivy tells her, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. This was interesting.
It was a very good conversation. And I wrote down Mrs. Crane notes, meaning like Ivy just basically is like, you think you know what you're in for, and you have no idea what it means to like be in this position. And she says some really cool examples about like going to benefits and knowing somebody's using you and smiling to their face. Like, but she also talks again about Julian and Alice are holding secrets and having to maintain all of that. Like, this is not, you think it's just all riches and glories, and it's a lot more dirty work than you're ready for.
She also makes a really interesting statement about you're going to learn who really has power.
Yeah.
And Rebecca says, well, I will have the power. And it's like, girl, you have no idea. And she should know what the fuck she's getting herself into after being a party to the Sheridan murder plot.
And I think that's why Rebecca has a little bit more, like, she's a little bit more cockier than she should be, because she has this big secret. Because at one point, Ivy's like, what, did he give you one little secret that you know about? Like, that's nothing. Like, he did that to gain your, like, he gave you one little morsel. Like, there's so much more. And
they've trapped you. She basically is like, you have fallen into a trap.
Yeah.
So it was, I really enjoyed, I loved every single one of the Ivy Rebecca scenes.
Oh, yes.
Every single one.
They are my favorite frenemies. I love them. The back and forth between them. Anytime I get them together, it's going to be amazing. And again, as someone may have predicted, this frenemy thing, there's going to be an alliance here soon. It's brewing. You saw it on your own, and having seen a couple episodes ahead of time, Rebecca and Ivy are going to join forces eventually.
Well, we roll over the days 2 times in these episodes. In 1 week. We've got 2 days in 1 week this week. It's crazy. I
was shocked at the progression.
I wasn't mad, but they changed clots twice.
That's what I'm saying, because if we're in Halloween, we're about to get to Christmas very fast.
I was like, okay.
They skip over Thanksgiving, if I remember correctly.
They're moving right along. So it is now the next day, Rebecca and Julian's wedding day, y'all.
Yep.
So first of all, Theresa wakes up. This poor girl has PTSD, period.
Yeah.
She's asleep. Ethan comes in, is like giving her little kisses and caresses,
Breakfast
right?
in bed. Yeah.
Yeah. And she has a dream of waking up to Julian. And she screams. And Ethan's like, what? What? It's just me. It's just me. So, I mean, I just wanted to note that because to me, that's like indicative of PTSD, but whatever.
Yeah.
Julian, at the same time, is like having a dream wherein Rebecca testifies against him in court and says he's the one that killed Sheridan. And then everybody starts to beat him up in court.
Lynch mob, yeah.
Yeah, and so he wakes up and he is literally handcuffed to Rebecca. And he's got on an eye mask and he thinks that his eyes have been gouged out. Because in his dream, that's what Ivy said. She's like, we should gouge out his eyes so he could never look at another young girl again. And so he wakes up and he's like, my eyes have been gouged out. I can't see anything. And Rebecca wakes up and is like, oh, you have on a blindfold, silly, because she put it on him.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want him to see her before the wedding. She unlocks him, and he keeps the blindfold on. He's like, well, I have to get to the closet to get a change of clothes. And then he falls out the window. It's not important. Yeah. Nothing happens. It's just a gag, but I loved it. It was a great sight gag. He falls out the window. Anyway.
He ends up back in his library.
Yeah. So he goes back to the library. He talks to Harper about the annulment papers. Harper's like, I'm going to have them sent over today. Julian calls Theresa and tells her, and she's like, why would you call me here? He's like, where else would I call you? Yeah. And he says, you need to come over to the mansion. My thing was, why are we doing all of this at the mansion? Don't the Cranes own a ton of properties in town? Can't they go to Crane Industries? Doesn't he have an office at Crane Industries? Can't they just go there? They could go to the cannery. They could go to the chicken coop. They could go to the chicken coop. They could go to the lobster shack. Yeah. Okay? They could go to the Seascapes restaurant. There's always places
they own the book cafe. Yeah.
I wouldn't say don't go to the book cafe because everybody goes to the book cafe. Right? Like, you're going to get caught at the book cafe for sure. Yeah, like, no, don't go to the youth center because, we used to go to the youth center. You got to be careful about that. But honestly, sincerely though, why wouldn't you go to Crane Industries where you do work, where you have an office, where there's security, where you can tell security, hey, don't let Rebecca in here. Hey, don't let such an Ethan come in. If somebody comes looking, tell them I'm not here. Yeah. Why would you? I'm sorry. I just, the whole time when they were like trying to get these annulment papers taken care of, it just was driving me crazy because they could have done this so easily somewhere else. Why would you come to the lion's den? Yeah. But anyway, so Theresa and Ethan go over to the mansion because Ethan was like, I need to go over and check on my mom today. And originally Theresa was like, I'm not going to go because,
your mom hates me.
She hates me. I don't want to deal with it this morning. She doesn't need me over there right now. But then after she talks to Julian, she decides to go and she tells Ethan that she just wants Ivy to know that she's supporting her. She's lying. This girl lies are just flowing like water from a stream out of her mouth. And so they go over to the mansion. Ethan goes upstairs to talk to Ivy. Theresa goes and talks to Julian and she's like, where are the annulment papers? I need to sign them now. Like, nobody can see me in here. Nobody can see me talking to you. He's like, well, you're a little premature. They're not here yet. And since we have time to kill, why don't you fulfill your conjugal wifely duties one last time? This man has a death wish.
Oh, I know.
He's suicidal.
Yeah.
She slaps him across the face, calls him a pig, of course. He's like, and he says to her, says to her, what is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? Yeah. You need to be evaluated. He needs to be evaluated.
He really does, because I'm like, how do you not know? How do you not pick up on that was all a mistake? Like, that you made that happen. She didn't want to do that. It was all in your head. Like, you...
The thing is, he has picked up on it. He knows that. He knows that for sure. There's no question whether he knows, whether he thinks Theresa wants to be married to him and wants to have sex with him or not. There's no question about that. The issue is that he still keeps pressing her because he's disgusting and he's a predator. He's preying on her. And he knows that he has her in a way over a barrel, right? Because he could just blow the whole motherfucking thing up,
Mm-hmm.
right? He really could. I mean,
He'd
he
have to deal
would
with
have
Luis.
trouble. He'd have to deal with
Yeah.
Rebecca, and he'd have to deal with Luis, and he'd have to deal with Ethan. But he has been mulling over that idea for a while since they were in Bermuda. He's been like, we could just stay married and just run away together. He's
Yeah.
been thinking that for a long
Yeah.
time. So that's what, in his heart of hearts, if he can't have Eve, he would like to have Theresa, you know? And so I was just, the whole thing disgusted me.
Yeah.
But I'm glad she slapped him,
It was a good slap too.
calls
Very
him a
good slap.
pig. That is basically it.
Yeah.
Ethan has a conversation with Ivy talking about, this is important.
Yes, there's a promise that has been made.
Yeah, Ethan has a conversation with Ivy where he tells her, Theresa's here, she wants to make amends with you. She's really not the villain that you make her out to be. And Ivy says, you know what? I'll make a deal with you. If she proves to be everything you claim she is, and she doesn't have any secrets, then I will put the past behind us. I will treat her as a daughter. But if she is withholding any information at all, she says
One secret. Just one secret.
she says any information at all. If she is withholding that she gets her roots dyed, you like
Yeah.
you have to promise me that you will stop making excuses for her and break it off with her for good. And he begrudgingly agrees. He's like, because he believes in Theresa. He's an idiot, but he believes in Theresa. So that's pretty much it. You have anything to add?
I was gonna say, like in Ivy's defense here, I know that she is slowly becoming more and more of a villain, even though we're still rooting for her. She did. I mean, if if you think your person, your kid's person is a liar, you're gonna do anything to make sure that he recognizes that they are a liar. So she
Ivy's
is. Yeah.
Ivy's not wrong.
Yeah. She's not wrong. I mean,
Ivy's not wrong. And
now.
anybody with half a brain cell, when they saw those annulment papers, would have immediately been like, oh, something fucking crazy's going on
Yeah.
here. And on top of that, he wrote her a check.
Yeah.
He wrote her a check. For me, my brain goes to, that's hush money.
Yes. All of that, and I just want to point out, yes, I'm talking about Ivy and giving her like, yeah, she's very right about all this stuff, but this is the kettle calling another pot black. I mean, it's like she is the Theresa and her have more in common than she'll ever know, because she's the one that is manipulating other things going on and all this other stuff and scheming to get Sam back. But why can she scheme to get Sam back and not her scheme to get Ethan back? So it is very frustrating. Like, I see both sides.
In a way, Ivy knows that she is right in her heart of hearts because Ivy is doing a lot of the exact same shit.
Yeah.
And has done. She knows the playbook. A game recognized game. Again, like I
Yes.
said with Hank being
Yeah.
a criminal and recognizing that guy as a criminal. This woman is a liar. She
Yeah.
recognizes another liar. Like, you know?
Thank you for letting me find my thoughts, because I was like, I know I'm trying to make a point.
No,
And there
you're
it is.
right.
It's just like Ivy and Theresa have a lot more in common than they'd ever know.
Yeah, they are two sides of the same coin. I actually they're the same side of one coin. Like they are so similar. They are
Because
so
they
much alike.
justify the choices that they make to get what they want, and
And
then
it's
they go
all in
for
the
it.
pursuit of love.
Yes,
Right? It's all
yeah.
like I'm
It's under
doing
that
this because
guise.
I love him and I'm doing this for his own good.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
what Ivy's rationale is behind all of her shit with Sam. Oftentimes she's like, I know that Sam really truly still loves me. He just doesn't know it. I'm gonna help him understand.
yeah.
He's actually in a loveless marriage. He may love Grace, but he would love me more.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for him
As a
and
favor.
it's the same thing. It's the same thing with Theresa. It's like I'm except Theresa really sincerely is doing a lot of these things for Ethan. Like,
Yes.
I'm gonna have him reinstated as a Crane. I don't think that was for her. I think that was more for Ethan. I think she really
Yes,
sincerely
and some of these
believed.
things are naive, like her being naive. There are mistakes, whereas Ivy's very intentional. She is very much more motivated towards, like,
Yeah.
I know exactly what I'm doing to get what I want.
Ivy's shit has not been by mistake.
Yeah.
It's been intentional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Game recognized game. So anyway, let's move on to Sharice, Sheridan, Diana. Dirty Diana. Oh. Dirty Diana. Oh. Dirty Diana. Bless her little heart. No, she's not dirty. She just lost, dazed, and confused. Poor little baby. Poor little baby. So, okay. Luis, we pick up where Luis has hope that he will find Sheridan again and thinks she's still alive because he found that rose on his desk. And he says, it's a miracle. It has to be. I'm going to keep looking for her. Sam says, hey, buddy, maybe you should take a leave of absence. Yes, I agree with Sam. Yeah, you can't go right back to work, man. And Luis protests. He's like, no, Sam, I can do it. I can work. And Sam's like, no, this is a really high powered job, really high stress job. I would hate to see you do something in a moment where you don't have clarity and you ruin your career. And so Sam insists this is for your own good. You have to take a leave of absence. Then Beth comes in to visit Luis, and he tells her about the rose that and says Sheridan's still alive. And then she tells him, Luis, I sent the rose.
Yeah.
Like, of course she did. Of course Beth did. And I don't know. I'm not going to say it's calculated at this point, but it kind of feels like it because she says
she knows that rose meant something to Sheridan and Luis, and so
I don't know.
Send gardenias, send irises, send
she was like, I just thought it would make you think of Sheridan and the good times that y'all shared. I saw you buying roses for her one time, so I knew it meant like roses were important between the two of you. Okay,
but also roses are like okay, David Hastings, like roses are important to a lot. Like you give roses all the time, so why would you pick that one particularly?
But also, if you're gonna send a flower, first of all, one singular rose. Second of all, send a note. Put a note on it.
Mm-hmm.
Put a note.
Yeah, who sends? Yeah,
it's to me, it's creepy to receive. I would be creeped out if I received one singular rose and no note.
Yeah.
It was just laying on my desk.
Also, I would have been like, which cop gave this to me? Because I would just assume it was somebody I was working with, not somebody else.
So this deflates Luis. Of course, I'm gonna have to run through this because I am in agonizing. My pain, like my side is in agonizing pain. Just for everybody out there, I hurt my back giving my niece and nephew piggyback rides, and now I can't sit up straight for too long, and I have like this ice pack on, and it has melted, and I am in pain. So we have to speed run this. Yes, she says she sent the rose. Luis is deflated. He decides to call the captain on Bermuda and be like, because remember, he called the captain in Bermuda to have them send out Sheridan's information and her picture.
Yes.
He calls the captain and is like, hey man, remember I told you to send out that fax? Don't do it anymore because there's no point. Sheridan's definitely dead. What harm could it do?
Just leave it going. It's not like I would assume that they stop on they want to stop, so just let it go.
What harm would it do?
Yeah.
But the captain is like, oh well, it's too late. I already sent it out and I'm sending it out to the last one now. And Luis is like, well, you might as well cancel it because it's Sheridan's dead. Click. It's done. Whatever. Beth and Luis talk some more, and she's like, I can really sympathize with you, Luis, because I know what it's like to lose someone I love. And he looks at her, he's like, oh really? Who'd you lose?
Who?
He looks at her, I'm with Luis on this. He looks at her and goes, okay, who? Oh really? Who'd you lose? And then he realizes she's talking about him. Bitch, yeah. Sheridan is dead.
Yeah.
Luis broke up with you.
It's a difference, yeah.
Sheridan died in a fiery, flaming, hellish way. Okay? Sheridan's blown to smithereens. And then I had to fucking have her cremated. We had to go over her body, and the only reason we even kind of recognized her was from her dental records and her fingerprints. Like, this horrific, bitch, you cannot compare. What me breaking up with you does not even begin to compare to me losing Sheridan the way I lost Sheridan. But Louise is not as indignant about it as I am. Louise looks at her and is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I never knew what you went through back then." She not going through what you going through.
Yeah, no, I know.
She did not go with you.
Yeah,
she did not go
right.
through what you are going through. She went through a breakup, which we all go through.
Yeah.
Like, that's not significant
Yeah.
in this context. It's not
No,
significant.
I appreciate that because now that you made me visualize the ending of Jaws where it just blows up, I'm like, oh wow, that's what he thinks happened to
That's
Sheridan.
basically what happened to Sheridan.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, he asks her, "Do you think you ever get over losing the person you love?" And she looks at him and says, "No, I don't think so." These two people are having the weirdest fucking conversation. I'm sorry. I was just like, what kind of conversation is this? First of all, Beth is talking about, "I know what it's like to lose somebody you love," in reference to Sheridan dying and her breaking up with Louise. And then he asks her, "Do you think you'll ever get over losing somebody you love?" Except he's the one she lost.
Yeah.
And so he's standing there like, "Do you think you'll ever get over me?" And she says to him, "No."
Yeah.
I just, I hate it. But this is the direction we're going. Fine.
Well, Passions is gonna Passions too because that fax is on its way to Bermuda or St. Lisa's or wherever the hell we're at, and then
It is St. Lisa's Island. Shout out to Lisa's.
Yes, there you go. And so it's on its way over there, and he says, "Nah, never mind. I think she's dead." And they're like, "Oh, cool. I'll cancel this fax I'm about to send." Where Sheridan is waiting or Diana is waiting for this. And again, this is so annoying. This is exhausting, and it's going to last forever. Is that Sheridan is like, Diana is sitting there going, "Maybe this one piece of paper will tell me where I'm from." And it just is annoying.
She is so irritated. Here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to finish up with Louise.
Go, okay.
And Beth and Hank,
then we'll
because
go
I have
to
like two more notes, and then we'll go to
we'll go to St.
because,
Lisa's.
because
Okay.
frankly, this regression of Sheridan's is very irritating.
Yes, it is.
So later, after the whole conversation between him and Beth, Louise is talking to Hank, and they're at the site of the Bennett home, construction home, and he says to Hank, "I know that you don't like David, but something about his presence is giving me hope." So now we're back to maybe Sheridan is alive, but you've had them cancel the fax.
I know,
So
it's very annoying.
he comes back, so he's circled back to, maybe a miracle happened, maybe Sheridan's alive. He says David's situation, having found grace after all these years, gives him some hope about his situation with Sheridan. Later at the book cafe, Beth gets a phone call and she starts crying. She's like, "What? No, what?" And then Louise asks her what's wrong. She says, "My dreams in life have been destroyed." I was intrigued. I was like, what the hell is going on? And I was wondering what it was. I thought it might have had something to do with Edna, but it didn't.
Not yet.
Not yet. So,
Oh, Bethany!
you little trap, harlot. Ooh, Edna is horrible. So,
I cannot wait.
Yes. So she explains to Louise that her father had left her a boat, and that she had been using the boat, like chartering it out, and she was doing it through this agency, but the last person who chartered the boat didn't bring it back.
It gets convoluted. There's two things that happen. One is she had a boat. It was being rented out. They rented it from this agency. The agency let it out to somebody. They never brought it back. It was stolen. Then the police, if she gave the police enough money, they'd go find it. So it means that the police there are corrupt, and so they went and found it, and now they have it. And it's got some issues with it, but they have it, and she needs to come get it, or not, they're gonna get rid of it.
And for some reason, it's at Liz's establishment. She's got it docked at.
Yeah.
So anyway, somebody has to go get the boat. Beth says, "I can't go get the boat. I literally just got back from this 3-month trip up the coast of New England taking pictures with my photography club.
Yeah. Yes.
She's like, I can't do it. Louise says, you know what? Actually, I can go and get it because
Yeah.
Sam is making me take a leave of absence. She says, I can't make you do that. It's in the worst possible place. And she says, it's in Bermuda. I can't make you go back to the place where you lost Sheridan. And he says to her, you know what? Maybe this will be a good way for me to gain some closure, go back and, you know, close that chapter for good. That's not exactly what he says. Let me see if I can. Because he said, there it is. He says, maybe he can go back, do it, and maybe going to Bermuda again will help him find peace. And I close the chapter because that misconstrues it because he doesn't want to close the chapter. He wants to find peace. So the next day, Louise tells Hank about the boat and all the things, and he's going to Bermuda, and that he's doing this to help Beth. And he says he's doing it to help make up for how hurt she was when they broke up. And Hank says, I know another way you can make it up to her. You could start dating her again.
Yeah.
Hank, baby, it's been 3 days. It's been 3 days. It's been 3 days.
Yeah.
It's too soon, buddy. Too soon. And Louise tells him as much, basically. He says, I'm not ready to let go. I'm not ready to let Sheridan go. And then Beth brings Louise all the info about the boat, and he heads out to Bermuda. This is when we go over to the island.
Yeah.
Sheridan is looking forward to this emergency fax. She's like, oh, maybe this fax is going to tell me about who I am and who's looking for me. There's a man that loves me out there somewhere. Like, I don't know. For me, my first thought would not be to be like, do I have a boyfriend? It would be like, where is my mother?
Yes. Yeah.
Where is my father?
Yeah.
Do I have parents who love me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird that like the only thing she ever brings up is like, somewhere there's a man who loves me. Yeah. There's a man that loves me. It's like, okay.
It's very,
It's
and
odd.
It will not stop either. It's going to be like this for a good long while.
It's just odd writing.
Yeah.
So she's looking forward to this emergency fax. She starts seeing flashes of a man, and she says, he loves me and I love him too. And she's like, I really want to remember my life. And she keeps getting all these flashes of Luis. She can see his face. She knows what he looks like. She can't figure out his name. Sorry, excuse me. Then Diana talks with Brian for a little bit and thanks him for being so supportive of her. And talks about how much she and this man loved each other. Brian, of course, his face looks cracked. Like he just is like not into this. My issue with Brian, which I have stated multiple times at this point.
I've heard.
But my issue with Brian again is, and I talked about this a little bit more with my niece earlier today. He likes her because she's beautiful and a blank slate.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, I was like, it's like the sexy baby kind of trope. He likes her because she's like a sexy baby. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's disgusting. Think of it like that. But like, have you ever heard about that? Like in the trope of like, you know, she is a fully grown woman, but she got the mind of a fucking child.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that Diana has the mind of a child, but she doesn't know anything about herself. Yeah. She doesn't know herself at all. So in that way, she is like a child.
Oh, but he's also very, it's not the manipulative is not the word, but he does make her trying to find her identity way harder. Like he does not help. Like he exacerbates these situations in which you like, how is she ever gonna find out who she is when he's like, don't worry about it, like just live here, like just be here.
Yeah, he's like, and you're one of us now.
Yeah, he wants her, and I get that. Like you're attracted to her, fine, but like you are like your goal is to never help her find this out, and it's really awful. It's really bad.
Horrible.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. So the fax finally comes through, and it's a blank page because the transmission was canceled. Liz is like, don't worry, I'll call. She calls, and she says, they tell her, oh, the fax was a mistake. So there's nothing to see. Diana is devastated, of course, and she's still just trying to remember this man. And then she gets a flash of her grieving Luis in the Crane archives when he got electrocuted.
Yes.
And she's like, I know he died. He was dead. I was holding him in my arms. She says, no one is looking for me because the man that loved me is dead. And Brian is like, well, she's like, I have no one. And Brian's like, you have me, Diana. And he says, you're not much different from the other people here on this island. We all left our old lives behind. You may feel lost, but you'll never feel alone again. You're one of us now. No, she's not. Y'all ran away from your lives. This lady doesn't know anything
She did
about her
not
past.
choose to do this. Exactly. And it's going to drive me crazy because this is going to get cemented into Diana's mind, is that Luis, or this person, is dead. And it's like, but you're only getting flashes. Like, did you remember going to a funeral? Do you remember going, like, you gotta take, and you're getting them in, they're not in order, right?
Segmented,
so like,
yeah.
Yes. So then how are you going to just say, like, okay, yeah, that's scary, that's freaking out, but if you have hope that somebody knows you and somebody out there knows who you are, then why wouldn't you have hope that this person's out there or somebody else is out there? Like, to just give up, it's really annoying.
Well, what bothered me too was that later on she starts having flashes because Liz is like, okay. Liz talks to Brian, is like, oh, Diana can stay here forever now? How are you? And you said you were going to pay for her. How are you going to pay for her?
I'm so happy Liz says this shit because Brian just gets to walk around and do whatever he wants to there. It's bullshit.
He's taking advantage of Liz.
Yes.
He's taking advantage of Liz. There's so many reasons I don't like Brian, and one of the reasons is because he knows Liz likes him.
Yep,
he does. Knows Liz has romantic feelings for him, and he uses that to his advantage and takes advantage of her and doesn't pay her. He is
a fuck boy.
He's a fuck boy. Have you ever heard the phrase hobosexual?
No. No, explain it.
A man who will basically shack up with a woman because she has a home, but like he doesn't really like her, but he's like dating her, so he'll have somewhere to stay because he doesn't have anywhere to stay.
That's exactly
that's
what that
kind
is.
of what he's basically a hobosexual, except he's not having sex with her. But so he says to her, I'm gonna pay the bills. She says, how? The last time you went out fishing, you didn't make any money.
And you aren't going fishing today. You're just sitting around trying to hook up with Diana.
And then she says, you know what? I have a way that you can start to pay off your debts. And she takes him down to the boat, which turns out to be Beth's boat. And she's like, you see, it's in bad shape, but you can fix it up. And then Diana's like, I can help too. And so
she's insufferable. I love Sheridan. I hate Diana. So
once they get on the boat, Sheridan starts having flashes of her and Luis on the boat in Bermuda.
Yeah.
Which is why I was frustrated with the whole, the guy I love is dead. Like you said, it's not in order. Yeah. Now you're also having flashes of you on a boat and you were lost at sea.
Maybe he's fine. Yeah. Maybe he fainted. You don't know he's dead.
Maybe he washed up on another island too. You know what I mean? And lost his memory too, or whatever, what have you. Or maybe he's in a coma. Maybe he's alive, but in the hospital can't get to you. Whatever, what have you. But anyway, basically, eventually, she's devastated because she lost such a prolific love. The next day, Liz catches Brian like waiting for Diana for breakfast, and she warns him saying that girl is not one of us and she will eventually leave here and you will be hurt. That's basically it. Diana has a dream of reuniting with Luis, and then they work on the boat some more, and we find out that the boat is actually Beth's boat. So, Luis is on his way to Bermuda, but y'all already know he is not going to see Sheridan. I'm not even gonna act like, maybe.
But perhaps, no.
It's not in the cards. It's not in the cards. Y'all already know he's gonna go. They're gonna have multiple,
will they, won't they? Will they see each other? Will they not? They're gonna
have multiple close calls. He's not gonna really see Brian. He might see him from the back. He's not gonna understand. He's not gonna recognize him. He's not gonna see Sheridan. You're not gonna get me, Passions. You're not gonna get me. Period.
No.
So,
And
or
they
what if, now I do have what if he does see Sheridan, but thinks it's a hallucination? Now, I would not put that past,
Oh
I
yeah.
wouldn't put that past
Yeah.
Passions, because he has been having hallucinations of Sheridan.
Yes.
So he might see her for real. Have you ever seen Fievel Goes West?
Uh-huh.
And there's a time when Fievel and Tiger are out in the
Oh,
desert, separated, and they've
I
been
love
looking for each other. And it's been hot, and they're dehydrated. They've been having mirages, and Fievel sees Tiger, and Tiger sees Fievel, and they're both so excited. They start running towards each other. I'm so happy to see you. I'm so excited. And you're just a mirage. And as they walk past each other, they go, "Hi, mirage of Fievel. Hi,
I
mirage of Tiger." But it
know.
was really them.
Yeah.
But it was really them. It's gonna be like that.
I didn't rewatch that.
Yeah, Five Goes West
I,
is so good.
I like that one more than I like American
American
Tail.
Tail. Me too.
Yeah, I mean the best part of American Tail is somewhere
Out
out there,
there.
which is Sheridan Luis's story right now. That's what's
Yeah.
happening.
Beneath the pale
Moonlight.
moonlight. Yeah. All right. Well, y'all, I got to get off here because my side is cramping up because I'm old. I got back problems now. So, everybody, thank you all for listening. Eric, thank you so much for being here.
Of
Where can everybody
course.
find you?
I'm Mr. Eric Vera on everything. My hope, I am playing with the idea of bringing back a podcast that I had a long time ago. So if that happens, you all will be the first to know. But yes, Mr. Eric Vera on everything.
Yes, for sure. If you get a podcast going, we'll of course put a little clip in the episode for you for other people to find you for sure. So that would be very cool. Let me know. All right, everybody, remember you can catch me on all the social medias with the exception of Twitter. Y'all, I ain't been out there in forever. I have given up on Twitter. Or X, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Um, but just check the link in the description if you want to join the Patreon, if you want to buy merch, if you want to, follow the YouTube channel, whatever, what have you. And with that, you are my passion for life.